Ugh, Rise is now making me do a podcast. I don't want to do it, but I don't have much choice. The tower needs the Antizen. There's not much that I can do. My hands are tied, the GRE needs that file, and Dave needs more subscribers on YouTube.com. I'll do whatever I need to do. I'm a total pushover and huge baby. Also, Jade is still waiting in the train car, and I'll get to her when I can. But Tolga and
Fatine.
Whatever, this fucking loading screen music sucks ass. It's really distracting. But Tolga and Fatine take priority.
Crane, we need a battery from the bus. Can you hear me? This is stupid.
No, that was good.
Hello and welcome to episode 10 for realsies this time of post game clarity. We're not going to do the whole motto thing, the whole motto. So today we are going to be talking about Dying Light. If you remember from last time, Dorkaxe, chose to play Demon Souls. And then Drew's PS3 fucked us, and then the remake fucked me. And then we just did a non-episode, a 9.5, if you will, not covering Demon Souls. And basically, now I get two picks. So everyone say hello. And here's the Dying Light podcast. Welcome, everybody. Woo!
Hey, it's good to be here.
Is it, though? I feel like you don't mean that.
Well, I'm so fucking excited to be talking about Dying Light, the greatest video game ever made.
Look, no matter what the game is, I always like talking to you two.
Aww.
True.
That's so nice. You should add in the "aww" effect. It'd be perfect.
Yeah.
So here we are on November the 8th, at least for us Americans, talking about the 2015 zombie parkour open world RPG Dying Light. And to put it mildly, all three of us didn't have a great time.
Yeah.
That's putting it mildly.
And you might be confused. I picked this game. Surely I love it. Yeah, I thought I did. And then I played it again. This is the second time I'm playing it. I played it, the first time for the critique I made 2 years ago. And didn't love it as much. So we'll get to that. We'll get to why Drew just hated it. And we'll get to why Dave
No, I loved it.
Didn't enjoy himself.
I tried,
Listen.
man. I really tried. In fact, just prediction. I feel like I might be the most fair to the game out of the three of us for this podcast, but we'll see how that pans out.
I feel like I'll be doing some defending because I did watch my critique video, and even though I was more positive in it, than I am now, all my points in it I basically agree with. I'd say, if anything, I just didn't go hard enough on some story sections that I thought were so stupid this time around. But I'd say I mostly agree with everything I said. So honestly, I can totally see where I was coming from. But now I'm not blinded by what I think the potential of the game had. And now it's just
Yes.
I'm taking the game as it is. And it's just a mess. This game's a mess.
Can I start by asking you a question then? Because
Yes.
earlier this year, Dork and I played through Far Cry 3, and then we played through Assassin's Creed, and we're going through Far Cry 4. But it was when we were playing Far Cry 3, you said to me, oh, a lot of the cool stuff I thought was a Dying Light thing turns out to be a Far Cry thing. And do you think maybe you've played, especially this year it seems, quite a lot of games that seem to Dying Light was taking inspiration from? And do you think maybe knowing that what you thought was original in the game wasn't original maybe dampened your enjoyment a little more?
I really thought that's what was going to happen, but I don't think that's what happened. So,
Okay.
I remember in the video, I talked about all of the cool immersive touches, and a lot of those are found in other games I played. Even when you're high up on a tower and Crane's head bobs back and forth because he's so high, that was also found, I think, in Far Cry 3 and 4. So it's okay, well, who cares? But no, it's just the main thing with me was that I had this idealized version of Dying Light that I tried to play in 2021/2022, and really, that's just not what the game is. I think I wanted a Breath of the Wild, explore everything experience, and that's just not even close to what this game is. This is more of like a do the missions and keep your head down kind of game, you know? On that note, even though it doesn't really apply, let's change things up, right? Let's change things up. Let's just start right away with the story, because I think it's most people, like even people who like the game, can easily go, yeah, but that story sucks. So, in terms of like your overall thoughts on the characters and the story, like what was the main thing that stuck out to you as at least kind of good or had potential? And then like the things that kind of stuck out as like, okay, well, here's why it's not good though, right? Let's start with you, Drew. I want to hear your thoughts on the story.
I want to say overall, because I've been preparing this bit, you want to know what I think about the story, Dorkaxe? This game drives me to fucking drink with this storyline, bro. All right. So basically, you play as Roger Craig Smith, aka Kyle Crane, and you drop into an island in the Middle East that has a fucking zombie pandemic that breaks out. And so you join this group of people, and a teenager teaches you how to parkour so you can parkour around the zombies. And then from there, you're trying to work with your CIA mommy back in the States to infiltrate, find someone on the island who stole a document or whatever. But also, you kind of get attached to these funny people in the tower. And so then you start feeling guilty because they don't have meds. Now, there was potential here. I think when I saw the ending and thinking back on the ending a lot, I think that there is nothing inherently wrong with the character arc that Kyle Crane goes through in this game. But there are so many missteps along the way that keep you from getting emotionally, like really emotionally invested in him going from point A to point B. But the potential is there. And also, there are some pretty epic Matrix moments that are pretty awesome. So that's what I'll say about positives.
All right. That was short-lived, but I can agree with you that, you know, the arc, like he definitely is a different person. Is it earned? I'd argue not really, but we'll get to that probably a little bit later. But yeah, I can totally see what you're saying, but I feel like a lot more interesting conversation is about to unravel here. So let's hear it.
Mm-hmm. So this is something I was thinking about since like the further I got into the game. So basically you show up and you contact the it's called the GRE. I don't remember what it stands for. Is it basically like the FDA?
Global Relief Effort is it would not be FDA because FDA is federal, so that's only U.S. This would be like
okay.
a UN task force. I don't fucking know.
Okay, got it. So so you have to climb to call. Oh my god, this game is so fucking stupid. You have to climb to random locations to call the GRE in secret.
Very specific ones, mind you. By the way, this is a thing we all hated. You had to go to a very specific spot, a specific roof of a building, a specific train car. Otherwise, can't call GRE. Impossible. Ridiculous.
And, yes.
And there's one time where you talk to Raheem, and then the GRE call is just above him on the higher roof of the building. Oh my
god, so stupid.
And it's like, look, I can kind of get into the idea that maybe the wind and you're not exactly yelling into the walkie-talkie, but I don't know, you know, this guy who's, you know, completely trust him. He's like, yeah, good stuff, man. I'm just going to go up there and do something. Yeah. Okay, back in a minute.
Yeah, even Raheem isn't that stupid. Yeah, but no, look. We'll get into that later, Morty. So you have to go call the GRE, and the world turns blue for some reason, and you talk to this. Ugh, fuck! I'm drinking a seltzer, and then this faceless woman, like calls you and you have an argument with her. Now, basically, throughout several encounters, Crane slowly realizes that faceless woman representing entire organization doesn't have the best, doesn't actually have like an is it altruistic or whatever, like viewpoint of what's going on the island. They tell you to straight up burn like medicine so that you can keep searching for the person that just has their fucking document, like their fucking PDF on a USB stick somewhere. So they tell you to burn medicine. Now, and so obviously the idea is because Crane is attached to these people he's actually met on the island. As you go across the game, he becomes more and more distrustful of the government and eventually is more willing to stick up for people that he's actually met. However, it's very dissatisfying because, like I said, you are talking to a faceless woman and at one point a faceless dude who represents the whole GRE. I think, especially with faceless woman, I'm not saying this would be great for a game from a gameplay perspective, but if you had like some sort of like, I don't know, maybe kind of like from what I understand of like Portal 2 or I think even Control, where it's like if you were walking in like an office environment at the very start of the game before you go to the island and you meet faceless woman in person and you took the time to kind of establish that Crane and faceless woman have a really fucking good, maybe even faux parental relationship, then that would make Crane's like struggle to not listen to her like actually mean something. But obviously the game doesn't do that, so I can't give it credit for something it doesn't do. So it's basically like Crane is just spineless and burns medicine and shit for no fucking reason. And so that's what's very infuriating about it. The other thing that's infuriating about Crane's arc is that the second he reaches a point of true resolution is when the fucking credits roll. So that's what really pissed me off about the overall story of the game, I think.
I just wanted to say, I totally agree with you. So like one of the points I made in like the opening of the story part of my video is that the airplane ride into you like parachuting down is just there's no way a player is able to retain all that information. There's way too much shit happening at once. Yeah, exactly. It's all noise essentially. And I completely agree with you that having anything, having some kind of setup so we can see how his relationship like was prior to just jumping off the plane would be so much better. But we have to also understand that the game is so terrible at slowly opening itself up that would add 10 more minutes onto the already 2 hours of tutorials the game chucks at you, right? So it's just like this game is such a tightly wound up like ball of string. It's such a mess that to even come trying to like fix this or that, you would just be adding on to the you'd be adding on to like the mess. It's impossible without completely starting over, in terms of trying to make a cohesively good game.
And that's the thing about the story too, is you have all these incredibly linear missions. Like I started calling them levels because you literally, you enter into loading screens to go through a bunch of hallways for story stuff. And
good point.
So eventually me and Dork came to the conclusion, they were like, this game would be so much better if it was like just the linear missions to an extent, like with the story that they want to tell.
To a degree. I don't think all of them are amazing. But there's one specific mission I would love to talk about, but not quite yet, because I kind of want to hear like Dave's overall thoughts too first before that.
Yes.
Okay. You want like positives, negatives, or should I just go for it?
Yeah. So in terms of like what you saw as a positive, and then everything else that kind of undoes it,
Okay. With Crane, yes, I hate agreeing with Rice because he's such a dogshit villain that you don't want to agree with such a bad character. And I mean bad as in badly made, not like, ooh, he's evil.
Yep, I agree.
But like Rice's taunting of Crane for the whole, well, not the whole game, but the scenes that he's in is always that Crane doesn't know how to make a fucking decision, which it would be cutting if the game actually let us make decisions at very important moments when it would have been actually really interesting to make one. Instead, Crane always picks the worst fucking decision, and, you know, shit goes bad. And it's like, why did you have this like monologue about having choice and, you know, being a sheep and all this shit when the game's not going to let me do anything? I'm just playing this fucking dumbass.
Oh my God, go off, King.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, you know, I've been kind of going through some of our back episodes, and, you know, I hated Vincent and Catherine Full Body, but at least he had some redeeming qualities, or at least was entertaining. It's just,
and at least he gets to act with resolve once he makes a turn in his character.
yes, because you know, yes, in your normal story, what if you've got a character who's, you know, if it's a coming of age story where the character is kind of a shitty person, and the point of the story is by the end he learns to take responsibility and grow, usually that growth happens, you know, at like the 2/3 point, like the lowest point where it's like, shit, oh no, everything's terrible. I've actually got to take a step forward and take charge. Oh, we saved the day. Hooray. It's a good ending. Where, yeah, you're right. Where basically the moment he decides, you know what? I'm going to be a good person, credits roll. And it's kind of ass backwards, because you have the final boss encounter before that. You have a lot of interesting moments with other characters before that. And okay, this isn't quite story, but like, this blends into gameplay, but I liked playing Crane when I was doing side quests where I was helping people. That Crane never showed up in the main fucking story.
I agree.
It's just like there are, okay, so we're, there are side characters in the main plot, and, you know, some of them live, some of them survive. Actually, now that I'm just thinking of it, one of the characters I really did like, Brecken, he kind of disappears for the back half of the entire game.
Yeah, what the hell?
What happened to him?
I'd love to talk about that. I'd love to talk about that. Don't you worry.
Instead, you know, we get to maybe, I'd say, the 3/4 mark, and then Jade pops back up. You've been chasing her the entire game, but then she pops back up, and you actually get the best mission of the game that does revolve around her. And it's a big moment for her and Crane, but because we haven't spent the game with her, it means fucking nothing. And like what you said about Faceless Woman, that's kind of the issue, in that the game doesn't do enough to set up the relationships between our dipshit main character and all the people around him who are trying to make the world better. Well, you know, except for Rise and all that, but he's our antagonist. I mean, that's to be expected. Now, can I talk about? Oh wait, I'm still talking about positives, aren't I? I'm sorry, I went into a whole rant.
No, this is good.
Yeah, this game wants like Crane to, you know, make bonds with all these people, and then basically, well, there's Brecken who just disappears, but everyone else, every other major character that Crane is like meant to really bond with, like fucking dies, basically. I don't know, like they really, I mean, it's an M-rated game. It's an M-rated game, so it's like obviously you can use character deaths, but when like Crane doesn't have any anchoring relationships, you know, and so it's like he loses everyone, and then at the end, like I don't know, like it's like I don't know, Pixar a fire M-rated game, I guess. Like just have like any duo that makes anything more interesting, and just instead of just having a bunch of fucking mopey, annoying shit, and then just ending the game instantly. I don't know, like it.
Drew, you know, like, and there are, you know, interesting characters on the main path. I was just thinking, like, but we don't get connection with them. We don't learn about them. Like Troy in Section 0, Troy and the her right-hand man, the English hacker guy. Troy's got, a disfigurement on her face. Something happened to her, like a bad burn or something. But she's just a very enthusiastic, optimistic, interesting character. And I would have liked to learn a little more about her and her right hand, about what's going on there. They're doing a lot of good. A lot of the side quests in Section 0 were basically, okay, I've helped you out. Troy's going to send someone. We're gonna make sure everything's fine. There's a really interesting thread where it's a side quest to get a guy a gun, and if you get him his gun, he runs off with his kid. And you see him in the sewers, which I thought was really cool. And you can talk to him and his kid. And then there's a side quest in Section 0 where he's dead. He got bitten. And now you're trying to find the kid because the kid's still out there. And when you find the kid, you radio Troy and go, I've got a kid here. Can you help him out? And Troy's like, yeah, we'll get him back to his mom back in the ruins. And I'm just like, fuck, that's really cool. Because not only is it like a reinforcement of kind of the good work Troy and her team are doing there, but it was also like something that was born out of a side quest that, started off with, I almost wasn't going to give the guy the gun at the start because I was kind of, at that point, I was only doing side quests, where I was actually helping people, but I had a spare gun and I was in the tower. So I decided, what the hell, let's do it. But in the end, that did work because it led to something that reinforced that idea, at least there are people helping here. And I'd like to think that Troy and Brecken and Raheem and Jade, even though I don't know why the fuck she would influence Crane, but these good people, like that old Mr. Rogers quote, look for the helpers. These good people in this horrible situation, maybe they're what finally got Crane to pull his fucking head out of his ass. Instead of just, I don't know, wanting to show up Rise, which why would you listen to that jackass in the first place?
Yeah.
Drew, like you were saying how like this is a story where like everyone that Crane knows just ends up fucking dying eventually, and that's kind of like underwhelming and stuff like that. And I do agree he needs an anchor character. It's kind of funny how this is the kind of game where again earlier, like I was saying, there's you can easily imagine so many ways they could have made it better, right? So many.
Yes.
Just even with one playthrough, you can be like, well, here are all these issues you can easily fix if you do this and this. Here, so it's just annoying how like, have an anchor character. In my video, I compliment the whole like Raheem thing, and I do agree to I do agree to an extent, like with my old self, that he does play the role of a little brother, obviously because he is one, with Jade. But when playing it again, I'm just like, dude, we see him 3 times, and every single conversation is about the fucking volatile nest that does not impact gameplay in any way. And I can't believe I didn't have this in the video. Crane, like, he goes, listen, I agree, we have to get rid of that nest, it's gotta go, but you can't do it. Dude, this nest, no one's talked about it this whole game besides Raheem going, hey, you think we should do it? It's never been a problem, ever. And considering you're the only runner, essentially, in the game at that point, it's not a bother for you either. So it's like, who gives a shit? Just grab the... there's just so much here. Okay, because of course, Jade told you at the end of the school section, don't let him do it. Where are you going, bitch? Where are you going, right? Like, why am I the babysitter here? You can go back to the tower, too. And the whole thing with Jade is so stupid, because again, we have, what, two missions with her, and the school mission is supposed to be her like, this is you spending time with her, and the only cutscene that you're with her, she goes, oh, you're an oaf, Crane, how about you just say outside, hello everyone, we're here, make some more noise. I'm like, is this supposed to be endearing? Fuck off, what are you talking about? You just told me to help you open this goddamn crate. I hate Jade so much. She's so... The point is, I can totally get behind the idea of like, man, everyone around Crane is dying, you know, in like a tragedy kind of way, but none of them are built up at all. So it just feels like you're kind of going through the motions. You're kind of just on autopilot through the story. It's like, oh, that guy's dead. Oh, I guess she's gonna die. And boy, they really try to make you care in the moment because, of course, you know, our Roger Craig RCS is going crazy, right? You're like, goddamn stupid fucking kid. Great delivery. But I'm sorry, this time not buying it. You talked to him twice, you know. And then with the whole Jade thing, oh, I've thought about it. It was Amir's time to go. We all have an end point. Life is finite. What are you talking about, dude?
No, that
what are you
mission
talking
is
about?
peak.
No, that mission is garbage, dude.
No, it's awesome. All
right, Drew, let's hear it. Let's hear why you like the hallucination, boring platforming mission. Let's go.
Because I was losing my gourd throughout every story mission. I started saying, oh, great, another sewer level. Oh, great, another sewer level. Oh, we're in a fucking rundown city. Oh, there's zombies everywhere. And then you get to the museum level, which was a pain in the ass. I had to look up a walkthrough because I could not find that fucking tunnel under the boats, like, for the life of me. That was so embarrassing.
Skill issue.
You're right, it is a skill issue, but also that was fucking stupid. But also, skill issue. But also, yeah. So anyway, so then I'm like, okay, so we're just like in a fucking this fucking stupid sewer swimming, and then you finally get out, and then you're in like a big, bright, clear museum, and it's like an environment that sticks out from pretty much everywhere else in the game because it's like a clean museum. There's not like, even though there end up being zombies later in the level, there like are big swaths of the museum that are just a normal museum. So it looks completely different to everything else. And then you have a fucking shootout where these people are exploding glass exhibits with fucking priceless artifacts in them. And it's awesome. And then Rice is like, you want to know how I got these scars? Come and keep following me. And then you go down the hallway and you have to keep going for 50 hours. And I don't know, there's just something about just the way the museum looks that was so shocking to me after the whole game that it like really carried stuff for me. And then they really go hard with like the set pieces because you get to the room where Jade actually is. You help her out, and then you actually get to see her like fight some of the goons like semi on her own.
God.
No, I thought it was cool. It was nice to actually like, no, look. With the Raheem thing, you go and you open the train car so then he can stand there and do his cutscene animation, and then you leave the train car and then go do the bombing thing, and then you come back and then the train car is closed again for some reason and you have to open it so he can be a zombie. But
if we were CinemaSins, that'd be a ding.
Ding. Yeah, exactly.
Train cars closed on return. Ding.
Why the fuck would he close the train cars if it was already open? He already killed all the zombies. Ding.
Ding.
And then I fucking hate CinemaSins. I hate light. Anyway, so Jade gets to fucking kick some people, and it's cool because nobody else does it. Like, Dr. Zere gets fucking stabbed. He doesn't get to help you at all. Like, it's cool to see somebody else, like, actually, like, fighting in a story mission, you know? Like, they're probably just using the Survivor AI, but it's, like, still kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And then they're just like, here is every fucking insane cliche twist. Here's the cliche. Oh, so she was hiding her bite the whole time. And then you fucking hallucinate and it's and it's just like, here's the most fucking insane shit. And she's like talking like fucking Rafiki from The Lion King about like the circle of life or whatever. And you're just like, so true. Oh my God. This game just got really fucking deep. This is fucking awesome. And then
So deep.
Dude, it goes on r/too deep for me. And then you get out of the thing and then she's fucking dead. And then you fight a shitty boss fight where you could just tank through multiple deaths because damage sustains between game overs and Dying Light, which is hilarious. And it's just awesome.
I will admit that is the best. That is the best boss fight in the game because there's like 2 of them, and
Yes.
they at least like remove all your shit for no reason. How come all his stuff was gone?
Oh, I hated that so much.
I don't.
What was the reason for that one?
The reason was they didn't want you to kill the boss in like 2 seconds with your gun.
Yeah.
Yep, really dumb. Drew, I think you meant to say I'm 14 and this is deep, because that's really what it was.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's an actual subreddit.
Drew, hang on. So I'm actually conflicted here. Or not, I shouldn't say conflicted. I'm confused. Are you ironically standing for this, or like,
no? Look,
did you actually enjoy it? Because I feel like what you're saying is, man, every other part of the game is terrible, but this one is a little bit different.
No, I think it was like the like, you know, when you go see a movie that's like kind of mid, but like you see it in a theater with your friends, so you like have a way more enjoyable time. I think genuinely I appreciate the effort, even if this whole game is stupid.
well, because the museum was my favorite mission in the game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this is perfect because after like you finish, I'll tell you what the real best mission in the game is.
Similar to Drew's reasoning, but let me try and work through my thoughts. I was not having a good time with most of the story missions in the game. I thought it was really cool where when on my way to the museum, I decided to do this side quest where you have to find this boy's friend. And it turned out to be right on the way, so I decided to do that. And it turns out that it was his dog and it was eaten by a cannibal, and that was a fucking weird thing. But anyway, I returned I returned the dog tags to the guy, and he's like, well, you know, I'm the museum curator. Here's a special key to the armory. You might be able to help yourself out. So when I swam under to the museum and there was that side room and my key worked, I was like, okay, that's really fucking cool. I got all this high level weaponry that I can use. It turns out I didn't need it because once you enter the museum, it's a closed system. So I could just pull out my military rifle and go to fucking town, which I loved. You know, the only reason I didn't want to use that in the main game was that it would call the virals down, and I just hated having to deal with them. So yeah, I loved being able to just shoot without worrying about it. Even when I got to the room with the zombies, I like switched to my blade, and then I'm like, wait a minute, there are no more zombies coming, and I just had time, fun kind of headshotting them all like fish in a barrel, and that's also why the Tahir fight shat me, because it took away my gun. I'm like, what the fuck? Actually, same thing happened with the Rice fight. I climbed the ladder to fight Rise with the rifle in my hand, and then you get up there and it's a fucking QTE. But so you have that thing with Jade, which didn't really care about. Ryzen, what was his name? I just said it, didn't I? Tahir. They taunt you. I'm like, I don't fucking care about you. You go to the dream sequence. After you do that thing where you're kind of walking down the hallways and it's like, but I've been in this room, which was fucking weird. I think the dream sequence actually really made me think of Far Cry 3, the hallucinogenic scenes in that. So I will say I did not like the dream sequence. It looked nice. I didn't think it was well designed in terms of what it wanted you to do to get to the next section. The what Jade was talking about was stupid because, again, I don't fucking know her. It'd be pretty much if I walked out my apartment today and there was someone right there and they just start telling me their life story, but like we'd been friends for 40 years. It's kind of, I don't know you. What is going on? So the dream sequence, while novel, because it's like, wow, the game's not done anything like this before, so that's interesting. Then again, it's one of those really stupid non-choice choices where Rise gives you the one antigen and it's like, you're both bitten, so what's it going to be? and Crane and Jade are kind of having it back and forth, and I'm like, oh, is the game actually going to make me make a choice here? Because that's really cool.
I thought that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because the game ended up choosing what I was going to choose just for a different reason. I was going to think like, well, I don't fucking care about Crane. I think he's a dumbass. So, and Jade seems much more important to the people in this world. So yeah, she can take the antizen. But, again, Rise was right. Crane can't make a fucking decision. Neither can we as the player. So Jade basically tricks us. You must live on because you were the chosen one. And then she dies and you have to fight Tahir, which is kind of cool because they give you nothing to work with. So it was tense. And then you have to exit. And right by the exit, there's that bag with all your stuff, which I almost missed. I'm so glad I didn't because that would have fucking sucked. So like just in terms of, I think actually the museum is kind of a microcosm for the entire game because it's got some interesting ideas and it's evident what they wanted to do with it, but it just fucking fumbled the execution.
Mm-hmm.
Time and time again. Time and time again. I will say, I didn't like the museum level, except, surprisingly, the part that Drew did not like. I actually enjoyed trying to find the entrance in the water. I think that was kind of cool. That's the only time. In fact, that's the only time where I enjoyed having to dive underwater, because I was like, okay, this is actually tense, because I'm not even sure, like, where the, like, the surface is. Whereas they make you do fucking underwater stuff in the sewer like 1,000 times already. I'm like, oh my god, this is so boring. Swimming in this game is so boring. But you'll of course watch the video after this. But I actually make the case that the game is just lying. Like Rise is just lying. Crane definitely chose to save her. He did. Because she even says, I know that you chose to give the antizen to me, but you're the one who has... So he chose. He did. And then Rise goes, you didn't choose again! And it's like, I'm sorry the game just did a weird, oh, this didn't happen, I'm lying to you thing, but I saw it. She talked about it. Crane chose. He chose her. And then the game chose you. So I'm sorry to say, but the game's wrong. Like, it's just, what the fuck's happening? God, I hate Jade so much. I also say that seeing Jade in that, it's just embarrassing, dude. It's embarrassing. It'd be cool if this was a game, like, obviously this is way too much work for Techland, because good lord, they're so overwhelmed as it is, clearly. They can't do anything in this game perfectly right. But it'd be cool if they gave Jade her own like moves and stuff, and you saw her do some really cool shit. Like, oh my god! Again, it would be kind of wasted because of just that one mission. But what if you had more missions with her, right? What a crazy idea, right?
Yeah.
But just like seeing her do the stupid like stance that all the AI survivors do, and like the wacka shit, like I'm like, Jade, you suck at this. Like you're supposed to be like a boxing champ. You're terrible. Also, Drew, like, did you know that she was a kickboxing champ?
No, I think I forgot. I forgot.
Because
she probably said it in passing and I just forgot.
Well, Rise is the one who says it. She never brings it up, essentially. Like, Rise is like, I want the scorpion, because that's what she used to be called in like the kickboxing world. Or whatever.
Oh, see, that makes 10 times more sense that that's why he would want her for the fucking arena. Then.
Yeah. Right. And like, also, again, like I realize that there are some things I'm saying in the podcast that I've already said in the video, but wouldn't it have been such a cool character building moment? Because I'm not sure if you saw, but there's a whole bunch of like posters of her in the tower where she's like, oh, here's like Jade the Scorpion, and you can see her doing like the kickboxing pose. Wouldn't it have been so cool for her to talk about herself, her past, and like tear down one of those posters and get all like passionate about it? Like, instead, we get zero anything from her besides, is Raheem okay? Raheem, like, it's just, it's always about, like, everything with Jade.
What we do get is that while you're tripping out, she's like, I was almost like a stillborn, but then I wasn't a stillborn, and so I'm grateful for my life.
Way too late.
As a conscious adult, because I was a stillborn. When I couldn't remember anything.
way too late in the game for that. But I also want to say, like, it's impossible to get attached to like Raheem or Jade, because the only things they talk about with you are the other character, essentially. Like, the only thing you talk about with Jade is just either Brecken or Raheem. Besides the dream sequence, we never get to hear about her, you know?
Yeah, so this game really does not pass the Bechdel test.
Oh, and yeah, like, speaking of Troy earlier, she's just a total blank face. Like, who cares about Troy? She just exists. Cool. I'm glad you exist, Troy. Thank you.
When you mentioned the posters, because I never noticed that, but it reminds me that one thing I think I even said to you two in Discord is, and it actually seems so paradoxical now that we've been talking about how, you know, like, the execution of so many areas of this game has been wanting, where that is completely true, but yet I felt like there was so much care put into the details of this game. Like, so many, like the poster is a good example, but so many times where there would be a random survivor, I'd listen to their story and it would be really interesting, or just some of the lines you hear from people, or just basically how a lot of the houses look, or the, you know, the places that you go to a lot, like the pharmacy, the safe houses. I think a lot of the places were given a lot of care to how they looked. I think there was a lot of world building in the world itself. And obviously to sprinkle in all these, you know, random people with random lines and random quests, and some of them just monologue. But I found most of it very interesting. It was only actually later in, like, the back half of the game where I'm like, I don't even care anymore. But for the front half, yeah, I was actually really impressed by just the care that seemed to be put into many aspects of the game. So you have to wonder what happened, or is it like, did they just have a really bad foundation for everything, and then they spruced it up as good as they could, and some folks had more time to actually put in stuff that, you know, would make things seem a little more interesting, because, you know, it's always the little details that make a game really shine.
That's a really interesting thought, because I think I would agree with the latter, where, like, I feel like they had a pretty rough foundation, but it almost seems like a few people on the team just worked with what they had a lot better, you know, like, in terms of, like, the world design, like, the lore, I think is pretty solid. I don't think like the writing and story is, but, like, the lore of the island, you know, all that kind of stuff. But here's where it gets kind of annoying, right? I don't know what this game even like looked like at release, because Techland is a kind of company that they release a game and then, like, for better or worse, they keep adding to it for like 5 to 7. I think they're still adding to Dying Light today.
What you know, I played the majority of this game in October, and there was some weird Halloween event that kept popping up when I loaded up the game. And when I pressed continue, it would say, do you want to load the game with event or without event? I'm like, well, I'm just playing the game. So no, I don't want to see whatever weird, you know, Halloween thing you've put into this zombie game.
So it's like, I almost think, as you were saying with the, like, you were impressed with all those, like, scattered survivors with all their stories and stuff. I really wasn't, because to me, that seems really easy. And, like, what I mean by that is they're all radiant to an extent where it's like they kind of just, like, pop up out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, you know, who knows, like, when they'll actually trigger or not.
Yes.
And then it's just like, oh, let's hire someone to, like, voice this character, and let's hire someone, like, to write, like, whatever they're talking about, and then slot him in, and he just kind of stands there anyway, so it'll be easy, you know? They also lock a piece of lore about like Rise behind one of these random encounters. I didn't even see this my first playthrough. I was like, why is this guy, like, I've never heard this about Rise before. Why am I hearing about it from this random doofus?
That was me with Tahir. There was a random guy in the tower near the bottom where I just ran up to him because he had I was going through and clearing out all the exclamation marks, and, you know, sometimes they're not quests, they're just people saying something, but I always like to just see what they were. Maybe even to get them off my screen. But there was a blue arrow, you know, that's usually a survivor in the tower. I'm like, that's weird. And I run up to him and he just starts telling me the backstory of Tahir, like how he was in like a Turkish prison and he would butcher people. And it's just like, he's like, Rise may be the evil guy, but Tahir's the one you have to watch. And I'm like, and this was maybe like 4 or 5 hours into it. I think I just met Rise. So Tahir's in that first cutscene, isn't he? Aside from that, it's like, I don't know who the fuck this guy is, because all I remember from that cutscene was Rise. And, when I watched that cutscene, I was like, what is it with open world games and us having to deal with psychopaths all the time? But yeah, it was just, and you talking about that, how you don't want to give the game credit because it's all optional. I'll bring up this idea more later when we talked about the side quest. But yes, I think you're completely right. It kind of hit me where the core of this game, the main story, the main gameplay, the main everything is highly flawed. I have one exception, but we'll get to there when we discuss the gameplay. But it's like the stuff I enjoyed more than anything was, all the optional stuff, the stuff they probably put in way later that wasn't related, I guess, to this foundation of theirs. And that's actually kind of sad.
I would love to expand on like the side quest portion as well, because I think you're exactly right. But it's also frustrating with how right and wrong it is. It's we'll get there soon, right?
So the Rise encounter at the end, maybe we'll get to the QTE stuff later. I was just so bad with that final mission that when you're really angry, you just make the stupidest mistakes of the game. Like I failed every single QTE press of that entire sequence. And it was basically just where, and I was bitching to Drew over Discord, and Drew finally was like, Dave, calm down. You'll get through it, buddy. And I'm like, okay, let me just breathe. And yeah, I did it first try. After a couple breaths, focusing on my breath, getting into that meditative state, I did. And then the real bullshit began. So here's my big problem with that. You stab Rise, and Crane is about to kill him, right? And Crane decides to spare him, to at least let him, I guess, bleed out on the top of this tower, because it's like, that's what you deserve, and I'm making a choice. Finally, you say, I haven't made any choices, so I'm going to make this choice. Again, it shows what a fucking dumbass he is, because when you kill Tahir, you run the blade across his throat. Crane says, I've learned you don't leave loose threads like you alive.
Yes.
So it's like, I get you wanted Crane to kind of have one up on Rise and see, I made a decision. I'm going to let you live. How do you like that, asshole? But it's the stupidest fucking decision, because if you're going to kill Tahir because you don't want him coming back, well, what about his fucking boss? Like, that guy's so much worse. And of course, it bites him in the ass pretty much immediately. and I had another point, but I think I've gotten so worked up about how fucking stupid that non-choice. That's what it leads to. So Rise gets the drop on you, and suddenly you're hanging onto a crate in the middle of the air, and Rise is like, I will give you a choice, Crane. Give me the antidote. Give me the research, and I'll make your death quick, or it will be agony, and I'll find the research anyway. I can't remember what he said.
Well, it was even more dramatic. It was like, hand me like the research, and at least everyone in Haran will live. Otherwise, like, you both, you'll all die if you don't do it. So it's like, whatever, dude. Like, shut up. He's still trying to go on. Like, is it another choice? Which choice? He's choice addicted, dude.
And again, it's like Crane doesn't. Well, there is no choice, because I think, that's another big failure of the game. When a video game is going on and on about choice, and you're not giving the player the opportunity to actually choose, it rings really hollow.
Yeah, when he was saying that whole monologue, I was just fucking sitting there eating my Chipotle because I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and again, it's almost like, because if I remember correctly, isn't it that he's going to give him the research, but it's just to lure him in, and then he stabs him in the neck and pulls him down and then pulls himself up, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like I think I'm just reaching for threads to bitch about, because the bit earlier with leaving him alive is so stupid that I want to attribute that to the future part. But him coming back, and then it really feels like Crane only survived that through fucking luck. And
it was luck because it was luck because, like, the knife he grabbed was in him. It was the one that Rise used to stab him with. So
right.
It's like, if he didn't, good thing. So the moral is, good thing Crane got stabbed. Like, what are we talking about here, guys?
And right when he basically pulls himself back up, and at least Rice is dealt with, that's when the GRE happens, and the game basically just ends. So yeah, that whole sequence is just infuriating.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad. I don't think anyone likes the... Well, again, almost nobody... Even people who like the game don't defend the story. They don't. And especially not the ending, because the ending is just like, okay, it's done. Like, it's almost like a game that just, like, kind of decides, I'm done. Like, okay, you're done now.
No, it's like whoever... It's like the story is sitting there during the final boss watching you be like really fucking unimpressed. Like you look like the dad from Coraline during the whole final encounter. So then eventually the game is just like, okay, fine, I give up, bye.
All right, Dave. So do you have all of, like, the ending Rise stuff out of your system?
Yeah. So sorry, like, in terms of the story of the game, that was, and maybe it's just because at that point I was just so fucking done with everything. That was a very... I do want to talk about that final mission, but I think once we get more into gameplay, we'll come back to it. But like that entire final session, and this came off with the night before, I played for 3 hours because I thought the museum was the last part of the game. Then I thought the antenna level was the last part of the game. And then it just keeps fucking going. And to get to Rise, you have to run through the sewers again. And I actually... this is why I'm not going to give Drew any shit for looking up how to get into the museum, because I had to look up how to get into places or how to do things multiple times throughout this game, because it just, the pathing or where it wanted me to go or how it wanted me to enter a building made no fucking sense. We'll probably get to that later.
The UI is very confusing. Theoretically, it's helpful because in the minimap, if you are on the same elevation as where your destination is, then the marker is opaque, but it's transparent if you are above or below it, and then it'll show a little arrow.
Yeah.
But that's still really fucking confusing sometimes. Like, it can be really disorienting.
And it's not even true a lot of the time. Like, there's a side quest where you need, at the end, you visit the gunsmith for your reward. So you go to his shop, and where the icon is no way to enter the building. You actually have to walk around the corner from the icon, and then there's like this I think it's a roller door you have to pull up, and the whole area is like swarming with zombies, and there's like military men in the courtyard anyway, and it's I was trying to find it on the other side of the building for a long time, and that was one of the many alt-tab Googles I had to do. Just like getting through the sewer at the end. So I think when I finally did that final mission, not only did I died so many times during that final mission, but I was just so over everything. I was just so over that the game felt like it was ending so many times, and it just kept going, which I've said this in many podcasts, I have a problem with games overstaying their welcome. It might be a me problem, just the way I feel like my time should be spent. But it just seems like more often than not, a game will overstay its welcome rather than end with me either really enjoying the experience, being satisfied, or wanting more. It just seems like the feeling like I've had my time wasted is more prevalent within the medium. And again, could be my age, could be the modern landscape of games, could just be me. But so by the time I got to that final cutscene, even if I had a great time, I'd probably still be picking that apart because it is stupid. But everything just built up to that final, the last memory I have of the game, kind of the entire game just being so bad in so many ways, just left me with that as probably my most memorable moment.
That whole mission, yeah, I didn't have a great time with it either this time. I think it makes sense to hold off on everything about the mission, because I think it'll probably like bleed into the parkour stuff later on. But I have to say though, the QTE at the end, the game didn't do any QTEs up until this point, and then it ended the game with it. And here's the crazy part. Guys, RE4 has been out since 2005. I'm sure everyone is aware of the Krauser knife fight, right? Cool. Every single failure, pretty much, I'm pretty sure anyway, every single, like failure on a QTE gives some kind of like different animation death, right? They could, if you fail, it just cuts to black. How utterly boring, but you guys couldn't even give. Also, it's the same buttons every time. It's A, then X, then Y, then B, then X. I'm like, how is it the same buttons? This is embarrassing, guys. Did you guys just give up? You guys just gave up, didn't you? Like, it's so stupid. Oh, everything with Rise is so bad. Him yelling Crane after you chopped off his hand. Why wouldn't Crane just shoot him in the face? No, I gotta shoot everybody else, and I gotta go say, Sarah, are you okay? Like, oh my god, just shoot. And yeah, again, why? Anyway, we've totally bitched about this enough. Oh,
well, look, here's the thing.
Not. Drew, let me hear it.
Here's one last thing I want to say. First of all, in that fucking scene, can we not also acknowledge that not only should Crane have just straight up killed Rice after the arena, but also the fact that this game that wants to be, I don't know, for the most part, pretty grounded in reality with the whole parkour thing. Like, why the fuck does Crane go fucking Matrix mode for 2 seconds and spin around and fucking beat the shit out of 2 people and then fly across the room and chop Rice's hand off or whatever? Like, that is insane to me. And then Rice survives. So then by the point, and then the whole museum thing happens, and so then Rice is still alive. So then by that point you're like, dude, if he may be really, really, really annoying, but I want a fucking showdown with this motherfucker. And then you get all the way up to the top of a fucking building and you're like, oh, now I really want a showdown with this motherfucker. And then it's a QTE.
And he's been taunting you with his stupid voice and that music for the entire climb.
Yes.
Given that,
oh my god.
Given that there's a dedicated kick button and there's an achievement for kicking enemies off buildings, why wouldn't you try to lean into this? Yeah, wouldn't that have been satisfying? Imagine him screaming Crane again like he did when he did that, but he's falling down the whole building.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It basically,
so fun?
Oh my god, yes.
Basically, it would be the end of Die Hard.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to see a repeat. See, exactly. You
Dude,
get
Die Hard is fucking awesome. I want to do first-person shooter Die Hard. What the hell?
That's most first-person shooters, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
No, okay, but like, it's just, you guys are right. It just, at every turn, at every single turn, Dying Light's like, fuck off. Like, every single time they do anything, they're just filled with cool ideas. And you're like, oh, this could be... Oh, sorry, I forgot it's Techland. Sorry. You guys have no idea how to conclude anything. And this will be a thing I'll mention again in the side quest, but not yet. I first want to talk about 2 things, because they relate to each other, and it'll lead into the next part. We haven't even talked about it, guys. We haven't even talked about it. How did you like the constant battering over your head about the time limit that doesn't exist?
Oh.
What was the time limit again? I'm sorry. Genuinely, I've forgotten.
Well,
okay. So can I field this?
Sure.
Drew, I think what Dork is referring to is when you go to rescue the doctor from Rise's compound, and the military man, faceless man, gets on the radio.
That's right. Yes.
And Crane.
You have 48 hours. You've got 48 hours.
And I think I said in Discord to Dork, I think I said, geez, with the amount of time I sleep to push the clock forward, it's going to be like 5 weeks before this 48 hours is up.
Yeah.
But to give some grace to Dying Light, any game where you can kind of push time forward and there is a fake time limit, story-wise, is always kind of goofy.
But no, it isn't just that, though. We know Antizin is needed, otherwise the tower will become zombies. That's the point.
Right. Yeah.
And
yes.
the only Antizin drop we ever find is story-related, and fucking Kyle, he burns it and saves one vial. Where did that go? Who knows? We never talk about it again. So not only is Crane so stupid, he couldn't have thought, maybe I should like bury this somewhere, and just in case. Nah, there's no more Antizin drops forever. And now every single story mission in the slums like, Kyle, we need to get Antizin, otherwise people are going to turn to zombies. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? Because it's been 3 weeks for me, and I'm good. You know, like, why have a day-night cycle in a game where they keep spouting out time limits and shit like this? I'm sorry, Dead Rising did it perfectly, just saying. Like...
And you know, it is actually becoming a meme where that you are going to bring up Dead Rising in every fucking podcast.
It's a very good game.
but and I think this is the other thing you said we didn't talk about, but you just brought up how Crane suffering from turning into a zombie, like the Antizin seizures.
Hell?
The game decides, you know, like I think the museum definitely had some of that, but then like I can't remember the antenna did, but basically a lot of the late game missions, suddenly it was like, oh maybe we better bring up again that Crane is going to turn into a zombie soon. You know, that's something we've kind of forgotten to do throughout the whole game.
Yep. Well, again, it's just all the side stuff, as you said, is basically the best part of the game. So the more side stuff a player does, the less the story has any impact, because it's been weeks, right? And of course, even if you, because as you two were saying, you guys tried to skip nights. I tried to not skip any nights if I could. So you two were seeing even more days than I was probably. And again, on my first playthrough, I just, like, I did everything in the game, everything. And of course, that really clashes. Again, you don't need to spout, like, again, I want you to imagine this whole game. Again, you can't, right? You can't unravel this mess, but still, you can have an open world, like you can have an open world, like with side missions and zombies, but you just don't have everyone be infected as the focal point of. You can't have that be the crux of, you know, like your protagonist's goal, because then once you do anything else, it's like, well, this clashes hard when it comes to like the character's mindset. Why would he help Tolga and Fatine? I don't know, but he's wasting time.
Sorry, this might be a silly question, but it just occurred to me. Like, the whole point with the end of the game, kind of, is that the doctor that survives, you know, you were able to get, God, I can't remember his name, Dr. Zaius's research to him. And
Camden.
Right.
You just said Dr. Zaius. Are you?
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Camden's like, good news, I think we're on our way to a cure. And the whole reason the GRE want you in that research is because, like, PR-wise, the only thing that can save them from basically the world coming down on them for being assholes is that they find a cure. But then I'm just thinking, the whole purpose of Antizin is it keeps the zombie virus at bay. However it works, it makes little sense to me that basically Antizin is like half the way to a cure. It's like, so what is it? What's going on? It just occurred to me that the whole idea of Antizin and the whole idea of we don't know if a cure is possible. Why are these people with no equipment being able to create a cure or do experiments? It really makes no sense.
No, it really doesn't. It's such a bad.
You know what? It's not even.
So
it's not. This game isn't even, and we can use this to finally transition out of the story. But this game isn't even a ball of string. This game is a freshman year physics class popsicle stick bridge that is bearing almost all of the weight, but it collapses right before you get the passing grade.
Right. That's a really good analogy. Because just mainly like, yeah, it is collapsing under the weight of everything it wanted to do, almost like,
Yes.
it wanted to do too much. And because of that, no single section got the care and the time it needed, except, and I do have exceptions to this, but the one element that's foundational that I think is strong and the strongest is the parkour.
Yes.
Boy,
yes.
that would be a good transition if I didn't already have one prepared. So I'm sorry to burst your guys' bubble, all right? But if you remember, I want to talk about what the actual best mission is.
Oh, of course.
I think the actual best mission is getting to the antenna. Because, and I honestly, it was eye-opening this playthrough because it really, really showed me how the game could be good, but again, as you guys were saying, it's like they tried too much. I really like how it feels in the open world sections when you're, off on your own and stuff like that at night. I think like the night tension is really good, and that's basically where where the whole game peaks essentially in terms of atmosphere, and it's the only place that approaches horror too. But I don't know if it's worth it because the best mission in the game is the one where it sets the mood for you, on the way to the antenna. It's already raining and stormy. It's dark out. And as you make your way there, it slowly becomes morning. And the whole mission feels like a very linear thing, which again flies in the face of how the open world sections are, right? But it worked. It worked. Like I crafted an electric bat and I just killed everything that was in front of me. And it was even cooler because there was a bunch of zombies, because again, they knew where you had to go. There was a bunch of virals that weren't even looking at you. I could stealth take them down. When can you do that in an open world?
Oh,
you can't.
My only, the reason the antenna didn't hit for me, and I actually, in retrospect, I agree with you. That is a great mission. But there were two things going against it. One was I'd just done the museum, and I thought that would have been the end of the game. So I resented the fact that I was playing another mission. And two is this happened in actually many story missions, but the ones I remember are the antenna mission and the final mission, where a scripted sequence kills me because I was standing in the wrong place.
Oh, I remember. Yep.
Yeah. It's after you turn the antenna on, right? And so I'm walking around the base of the antenna as he's talking to me. And I'm like, okay, how do I get up to that place right there? Because I saw the broken stair, right? I'm like, okay, so how do I get to a point where I can jump to it? I don't see it. And as I'm doing that, I can't remember what caused the explosion. It might have been lightning, but basically the antenna blows up at the base, and I'm right where it blows up. So I die. And then it spawns me basically on a crate right next to it. And I see that the explosion has opened a hole in the gate that can get you into the inside. So then you climb up another way. And that just really made me mad because it was like, okay, you wanted me to get to the antenna. I stood there and you killed me because you wanted to do something cool.
Oh, I don't even think, because even on this playthrough, I guess I forgot about it because I was circling the antenna okay, how am I supposed to climb up there? I see all these really long bars up there, but I can't reach them, can I? That would have been way better if they just didn't have the explosion and they just had a different way for you to start the ascension process. Because I actually like climbing the towers in these games. There's not much of it, but I really like how it feels because the parkour is good.
the first one was really cool as well because when you mentioned it before, but when you get up high, the vision starts to go shaky. You hear a lot more wind in the sound design. And at the very start of the game, when Raheem is teaching you parkour and you have to walk along the crane, I remember at that point just because the game hadn't beaten me down at that point, just staring out over the entire city from that vantage point. And the sun was there, and it just looked so cool. And I was like, oh, this game does scope really well. I'm going to enjoy this. And there were times where sometimes I was up high and the sun, rose or set in just the right way to make everything shine. And it was another really good moment. But those moments were far and few between where I got to appreciate the level of the scope. Definitely up on the antennas was one of them.
And it's even more of a shame because you two didn't really engage with the nighttime sections. when there's an airdrop at night, a flare will go up, and it paints the area close by in a really cool, like, soft purplish kind of glow. Like the kind of glow you have with your flares. Have you guys even? I'll ask you guys that. I'll ask that later. But it's really cool because and there's also some really nice like vistas if you're up high at night too, where you can see like a far off city. Who knows? Like all those people out there are just like not affected by this at all. They're just like in normal everyday life, and you're stuck here. It's really cool, but it's just cool. You have to go out of your way to see it, and it's almost like this game needed more Ubisoft towers because that part of the game was good.
Yeah. And I mean, they were probably very self-aware because not only does this game scream like they were looking to Far Cry for inspiration, but when you climb the first tower, I can't remember if a joke is made, but it really did feel like they were kind of hanging a lantern on the idea that in a game like this, you climb towers. And maybe that's why it's like, I don't think you climb another tower for a very long time. Well, there is that one next to the gas station where you have to meet that guy. Yeah, so
True,
when you're doing those jobs for Kareem, when you're getting the radio up working again, you do have to climb 3 towers, but none of them are as high as that first one or the last one. So they aren't kind of the same thing.
No, it's kind of funny. I don't remember when like the gaming population firmly turned against the tower idea. But it's a bit of a shame because even though every Far Cry game after Far Cry 2 has the towers as kind of like this is what we do here, even though I can appreciate them there, it still feels better to do in this game because the parkour, it feels so good to climb things.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of are just appeasing, like the general, like groupthink in spite of yourself. Like you're almost just going, hey, like we know everyone is like super tired of towers, so we're not even going to take advantage of our own core premise of gameplay, even though it would have worked way better here than in any other Ubisoft game, even Assassin's Creed. I think this would work better. And so it's just like, you guys fucked yourself.
And one of my, I think two of my favorite safe houses were the ones where the bed was up pretty much halfway up an antenna, because I thought that was really clever,
True, and it's obviously like this is clearly a safe area, opposed to half the other safe areas where, if you watch my video, I complain about them. It's like, oh, look at this chain link fence that's already halfway broken. Sure, a fucking goon won't be able to break through this.
Or let me just push this empty balsa wood shelf in front of a door.
Perfect. So we're basically on it now, right? So the gameplay of Dying Light is parkour, free running, and, kind of bare bones melee combat and like some shooting. But I think we can all agree, like, it seems like they put the most, or at the very least, the most like well-rounded facet of the game is the free running. Would you agree?
Yes,
Yes.
Especially because the game, pretty much until a lot of the special zombies are introduced, the game is designed that you don't want to actually engage in combat. It's much better to, especially when you level up and get the vault ability as well, but the idea is to keep high, keep off the ground, keep moving. And when there are times when it doesn't work, but for the most part, it's just a joy to travel through the levels. And I like Sector 0 even better because it's really easy to keep up high because they've connected all the buildings with zip lines and wires that you can walk on, which was harder in the first area, the ruins. It was a lot more spaced out. But
Slums.
Just the traversal of this game never got old.
Yeah,
That's great to hear.
I fucking loved it. And it is also more unique for me for a lot of reasons that it took me a little bit more to get into this game because you guys are first-person game veterans. I didn't grow up playing first-person games. And even when I would play one, like my brother one time for Christmas. It was really sweet. He got me a fucking like Minecraft membership card for like $10 so we could play Minecraft together because he loves Minecraft. But I was never able to get into it, and a big reason for that is even in a game like Minecraft where there is literally no goal, trying to fucking look around, I would just keep getting fucking directionally disoriented. Like I just could not figure it the fuck out. And so obviously like I don't gravitate towards first person games just because like of experiences like that. Now, you know, playing Dying Light, obviously I had to come to grips with that. And that was probably the part of the game that I came to appreciate the most was the movement and how like I got the muscle memory for it. You know, I figured it out eventually. Like it became very, very comfortable. And even though there's some like the because everything about like the jumping and the grabbing is like all locked to the R button, like every possible state of grabbing, like the game flubs up every once in a while. It did become very reliable and very, very fun to like see a path, just dash and try to go for it. And I really enjoyed that the entire game. Like I'm a huge fan of platformers. I mean, I think most people know that about me. So it's like, okay, yeah, this is just like a first person platformer. So it's like I was able to get to grips with that pretty well. And I think this game really did like help me appreciate first person games a lot more. And I think it gave me like a lot of the skill set. Like this is going to be a transferable skill set, right? Like the reason you guys are like, okay, yeah, fuck yeah, let's just play Dying Light first person, whatever, is like you've been playing first person games your whole life. And I was really struggling, and maybe it's playing with keyboard and mouse I also suck with, because I remember really struggling last year when preparing for the Left 4 Dead 2 video. Dorkaxe like played with a bunch of people, including me and Dave. And I just got like, I was still really struggling getting disoriented as well as just learning the game's individual rules.
Yeah.
But I think playing with a controller, I finally was able to like be like, okay, I can get to grips with the muscle memory of a first person game. And this is something like I'll be able to take to plenty of other games. But also the parkour does feel really, really nice, and it works pretty reliably for like such a complex system.
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate what they accomplished with it, and it's frankly genius. Like so much zombie stuff is like just the crafting, it feels like, and just like going out and fighting zombies like head on. But in this game, they're like, no, you not only want to avoid zombies, like you want to climb up. You always want to climb up, and you have a toolkit that lets you just like climb up, and you can just fly all over the fucking place, and it's so fucking fun.
It's there's also, I love that sense of momentum where it's like the more you're doing the parkour, the like smoother it gets. You know, he tops out at a certain speed, but once you're kind of at max crane speed, it's just wonderful to be able to, you know, duck and bob and weave and jump and slide just through everything.
Yeah.
And even if you have to kind of make it a shift, you know, slow down a little bit, it doesn't take him much to get back to top speed again. The only two times I thought were problems, one of them is not the game's fault at all, and the other maybe. Anytime the game wanted you to precision platforming, like if you wanted to jump on like at the head a lamp post, you know, if you were high up and you wanted to land on a really small area, I would always undershoot that because I always thought, you know, you don't have a good idea of where your feet are. That's why first person platformers have always been dicey. It's always hard to know where to land, or even, you know, when to jump when you're leaving a ledge. Sometimes it feels really unintuitive in some games to you have to kind of wait a second past when you think you've fallen off before you jump to make the leap. So I don't think that's Dying Light's fault. There were times where I would come up short because I wasn't able to judge where I was landing in first person. But for the most part, you're not landing on small spaces. You're landing on big spaces, so it all worked. And the second issue was in section 0 especially, I felt there were times when the game wasn't registering the grab, where like I'm looking at a ledge, I jump at the ledge, and he doesn't hold on to it for whatever reason. I'd say this would happen maybe 3 to 4% of the time. So it wasn't a big thing, but it was enough that I noticed it. And every time it happened, I'm like, oh, it happened again. But I don't know whether that's just it could have been me. You know, early on, I had to remember to look at the ledges I wanted to grab onto, you know, actually move my vision up. It wasn't an automatic thing, but I got used to that. And then suddenly in the last bit of the game, suddenly, yeah, I was not being able to grab onto certain ledges at certain times. So it wasn't foolproof. But, you know, aside from those two little niggles, like everything you said, Drew, I just think it's fantastic. And I'm glad you had such a higher learning curve to overcome. I'm glad you were able to push through that.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the parkour just straight up is the best part of the game. And it's like I said, it's a genius premise, right?
Yeah.
But also by the end of the game, I was like, this is pretty much the only thing that I really do enjoy about this game. And granted, obviously, there's a lot to do with it. There's a lot of it that you need to do. But it was like the only thing where I was like, oh, fuck yes. Because everything else just really wore me down that by the time I got to the school mission, I genuinely put the game down for like 2 weeks out of genuine like frustration. Like I'm the type of person, I do not like getting angry in general or at my games. So I bumped into some human enemies and I got just so stuck that I was just so angry that I even accidentally like talked out loud and like yelled in my room, and I was like very embarrassed because like my housemate was home. So I was like, I just put the game down for 2 weeks because it was miserable, and because you're in a school, you can't parkour. So I was like, oh my god, I had to really struggle to. I even considered, I didn't realize because the menus are so fucking stupid that you could just change the difficulty. I thought I would have to start the whole game over on an easier difficulty because I was so like the lackluster combat just like beat me down to a point that I was like, I cannot beat this game.
Well, it also didn't help because I know you said you didn't have a gun yet, right?
Yes, I didn't have a gun, so I couldn't. And then once I got a gun, I never got around to it, but I wanted to write out some like little paragraphs about this game, and in my head I was like, I wanted to title it Dying Light, or How I Learned to Stop Crafting and Fire My Gun. Because, so, I mean, you know, obviously maybe it would be better to save this for the side quest stuff a little bit, but basically I just learned to, every time I tried to do a side quest or explore the open world and get a cool weapon or do anything, I basically just ended up hitting a personal brick wall. And so I basically learned to just give up and just tank through the story.
I would say, I'm assuming, okay, so hang on. There's quite a few things I want to say. One, so it's really weird how, you know, the game has such stark different sections, right? When you're in like the story corridors, it's just a first-person shooter and nothing else. It's nothing else but a first-person shooter at that point. It has no, it doesn't resemble itself in any other area of the game except just that it's in first person. There's even like some background music playing, like, and that's never even a thing in the entire game except for those sections. There, so it's just like you have to, because it's so frustrating, and this is, I totally agree with you when it comes to crafting, because they have so much cool crafting stuff, but oh my god, if you try to use that against the Rise enemies, you're gonna die, because the best thing to do is to just shoot them in the head. That's by far the best thing, because I tried, I forget if it was the school, No, it was the museum too. That's why like, I was getting really pissed at the museum. I'm like, listen, I'm so tired of shooting these guys in the head. I'm so tired of it. So I'm gonna try to use my melee. I'm gonna try to use my parkour to get to them. And dude, they shoot you, and then you're just insta dead. Or if they have a melee weapon, they do the whole I'm gonna duck. Oh, I'm gonna block. Oh, I'm gonna and it's like, oh my god, get over here, dude. Like this is so boring. So in that respect, as a sneak preview, I can respect Dying Light 2 a bit more, because the melee combat in this game sucks dick. So anyway, yeah, it's just so... You have all this cool equipment to craft, but you're told to avoid zombies, so you're probably not going to use it there. And every time you're engaging with mandatory human enemies, it just is really ineffective. Even like the exploding shurikens are just a joke. They're just a joke on them. Like, why do you have them? You'd think that'd be an easy projectile if you're out of ammo or something, but instead they suck dick and they're going to shoot you in the face and you're going to die. So it's just...
Sorry, but I don't know if this is a glitch or just maybe something with body armor, but a lot of... I think it's mainly the guards, but a lot of like the burning stars and the exploding stars, I would throw them at either a guard or a tougher zombie, and they would do nothing.
It's pretty well, yeah. So like, I'm guessing like the effect wouldn't go off, but also they just don't react to it. They just fucking stand there. It's like, oh, it's hard to even know if this did anything to you or not, right? Or I assume like you mean because also the exploding shurikens are super annoying because they only explode if you properly connect. Because apparently, if you miss and like you hit their toe and the game's like that's the floor, sorry, it doesn't even explode. It's just a normal shuriken. I'm like, what? Doesn't sound like it. So it has to touch flesh to explode. What kind of AI technology is this, right? So stupid.
Yeah.
Also, I know what I thought you were gonna say though, Dave. You have a dedicated kick button, and yet the human enemies, when you kick them, are like impenetrable.
Oh, okay.
Super dumb. So again, there's just almost no creative ways to take down the Rise guys. And this flies there's a lot of cool first-person shooters where there's creative avenues, or at the very least you have some arsenal choices. But because this game, it's like, do you have, the military rifle? Do you have, maybe you found a double barrel shotgun, maybe you have a pistol. But that's boring as fuck. Like, you don't even have cool guns to use. So it's just like, what are we doing here, guys? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Dave, I am curious though. I'm sure you were. Like, were you holding like the jump button anytime you didn't grab onto something?
I can't recall. I mean, anytime I fail to grab, especially, sometimes jumping up to get on a zip line is really fiddly. So there would be times where I would tap space a couple times to see if I'd latch on. And then he would latch on, and then I hit space one more time, so he'd let go, and then I'd hit space again quickly, and he'd latch on again, and I'd be good.
Oh, yeah, so anytime, like, anything like that happened where I wasn't on the ledge like I thought, as long as I just held the jump button, like, that would also act as, like, the keep me on this ledge any way possible button. So he would just, like, automatically grab onto it and climb back up. That's what happened with me. So perhaps, who knows. But in terms of parkour, did you guys try the grappling hook at all?
Yeah, actually, I used it a lot in the sewers leading up to Rise's final level so I didn't have to climb up all those stupid pipe areas. And I had the upgrade so I could do 2 in a row. But then, in the final level, like it does in many story missions, when it'd be really cool to use the grapple hook, the game just says, oh, you're too exhausted to use the grapple hook.
Drew, I would have loved to see like your reaction, because again, it's tough because you have to be a higher, like you don't even have the possibility to have this until level 12.
So here's the thing, I was actually at survival level 11. But to be fair, by that point, I was playing on story mode, so everyone that's like, what? They were only on level 11, what was she thinking? Well, okay, it doesn't matter, because if you damage enemies and then they kill you, they keep the damage, so keep that in mind. But anyway, I was like, okay, I'll do some New Game Plus and I'll get enough experience that I'll just get the grapple hook and I'll mess around with it and it'll be cool. But then the ending was so ass that I decided that instead of doing that, I would go play a better game that had Roger Craig Smith in it. So I went and played Sonic Generations.
That's incredible. No, because it's so interesting because we all agree that the parkour is the best part of the game. Yet they give you this tool which just slots in with your normal everyday throwable stuff. It isn't even its own button. And it lets you skip the best parts of the game, essentially, except when it's a story mission, then you're too tired.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you're climbing everything else.
And in a better game, it would have been a really cool movement. It would have been a really cool movement option instead of just something that lets you fucking skip everything.
And here's the thing: the parkour is so cool that after getting the grappling hook, I tried it out a couple times, and then I actually just kind of forgot about it until, I was stuck in the sewers. I couldn't find where the game wanted me to go to get to Rise's mission. So it's right at the end of the game. So I look up a walkthrough. And the walkthrough mentions, there's all these really cool spots. You can use the grapple hook to get up here. And, because I wanted this all done as quickly as possible, I'm like, hey, let me try out the grapple hook. And that using it to get around the sewers, because I had the double one at that point, I'm just like, oh, this is great. I want to use this for the rest of the game. Then I get to that mission, and it's like, nope, you can't use it. But my point is that I forgot about it because, yes, the parkour is so good, especially when I got to Section 0, Old Town, that even if I remembered it, it was like, I don't want to use that. I just want to run around the buildings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a strange... Because, there's a whole bunch of other cool abilities you're able to get when it comes to parkour anyway. And it's just like, all those are useless now. If you actually, go hardcore with the grappling hook. Because they're honestly, truthfully... I don't like skill trees much, but I do think there's a lot of cool stuff in there. I mean, there's a lot of stinkers too, like fucking 10% off your trading.
Yeah.
Who put that in the fucking toilet and flush it. But I mean, a lot of the parkour stuff, it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? Because a lot of it's like, oh, cool, I get to unlock this. But then it's also like, this is the game's best quality and you're hiding it from people, a lot of this stuff would have been cool to have earlier on.
Well, I will say one thing in defense of the skill trees where I think Dying Light does something. I actually haven't seen it before. It's probably been done before. But if this is the first game to do it, it's really cool, where I love the idea that I had 3 different skill trees that got experience in 3 different ways. I basically 3 different bars. So that, you run through the game. If you're doing parkour really well, you see the little +10, +10, +10 always happen. And when you're fighting, suddenly you see the little pluses happen on that. And then every time you finish a mission, you see the bar in the middle of the screen comes up and you see how close you are to another survivor skill. And I just thought that was really cool.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
I also agree.
I'm curious because
Wait. Look, guys, I'm trying to be positive for something here.
No, I totally accept that. I mean, it reminds me a bit of Oblivion, where you had to engage with with all the skills to upgrade them, which was interesting. But people hated that because you just jump everywhere and get your athletics to 100. But Drew, I am curious though. You've obviously played a whole bunch of RPGs, but ignoring all of those, right? Because I think that's its own beast, right? How many action adventure games have you played that involved a skill tree?
That involved a skill tree. I'm trying to think. Probably not many. Yeah, I think the closest comparison would be a more traditional RPG, but even most of the time that just gets, you just automatically learn skills at specific levels. So I don't really think, so this is a pretty new thing to me as well, because it gets put into a lot of first-person RPGs, first-person Western RPGs especially, I think.
Well, it's basically in any action adventure game these days. I'd say probably more like third person if I'm being honest. But it's interesting because
you know what? Actually, it kind of does apply to some of the Final Fantasy games that I've played, because Final Fantasy X has the sphere grid, which is completely built around slowly unlocking incremental skills. And they kind of, I mean, slight spoilers for FF7 Rebirth, which completely came out earlier this year, but they have, every character has a folio that has, it's basically a character specific skill tree for every character. So I guess it is basically like that, but the folio does work a lot like how Dying Light works it, where in that game each character gets their own folio points that you spend on stuff for all of their folios, but here all the skills are broken up into the 4 categories, which individually unlock points depending on what you do.
Interesting.
So I guess it's kind of the same in like it's the same but in a different flavor, I guess I could say.
Now, Dork, were you asking because of the idea that since the 2010s now, like every action game has a fucking skill tree in it?
No, yeah, I was gonna say, like,
oh wait,
not only
you know
then,
what other game? I'm so sorry, I just remembered also. Do you know what else has a fucking skill tree in it? Is Sonic Frontiers. So I completely forgot about that. I completely forgot about that.
I don't think I can speak on that, but I was just gonna say, like, it's interesting. Not only is this game an introduction to like first-person shooting in a way for you, and like just like first-person controls, it's also gonna hamper, like, if you ever like do play any of like the Sony shit that they sludge out, all of the God of Wars and like Spider-Mans and like Horizons. I think you'll be pretty disappointed because you've now played Dying Light, which has a much more interesting skill tree opposed to every other skill tree out there at this point, where it's just like you have 3 individual, like, you know, separate trees to work on that all kind of like branch out in their own ways, and you earn them differently, whereas in every other one it's just basic experience, and it's like you're gonna get them all anyway at some point, so whatever, you know. So it's just, I'll choose this one for now. It's really, yeah, so it's interesting how you already have a way to be disappointed more with future games, so that's cool for Dying Light.
Well, it's also that was basically like, and I can totally see just from listening to people talk about the concept of a skill tree. I guess I should clarify, I got confused with the folio thing, because I also forgot in the FF7 remake games in FF15 there are just straight up skill trees for in 15, 15 is for the characters, 16 is for the different summons, and in 7 Rebirth it's for your weapons, have skill trees for each of them. And so all of those are very annoying. It's basically like you spend points to unlock an ability, and then you have to use a separate point resource in order to equip custom abilities, so your build out is different. But yeah, the process of unlocking them is so uninteresting that I barely like engaged with them really. So already I can totally empathize with, like, yeah, I actually agree. The way Dying Light does it is a lot more interesting. Like, everything is specialized and you earn points based on actually performing relevant actions.
Mm-hmm. And what's even cooler is that the survivor level is basically what your character's level is, right? And
right.
And that kind of brings me to the talking point that changed my opinion of the game a lot, because I just didn't care about it this time, whereas originally this was the reason I loved the game. How much did you guys interact with the airdrops?
I'm gonna let Dave go first.
Okay, a little bit. If I was near one, I would go for it. I would never go out of my way for them. That they were always, like the experience is really good, and running to get them can be fun. I don't know if this is a good time to bring up the lock picking mini game, but that was a frustrating part of the airdrops.
But we'll end this little section with that, because it deserves to be talked about.
Okay, but like, it always felt good to give that stuff to the quartermaster. One thing, we were talking about Antizin before, and I guess in the back of my mind, I thought that Antizin was part of just the normal airdrops you're getting, so you were giving people a bit of everything, but obviously, that would make the main plot not make sense, so it probably is just food and supplies and water and stuff like that. But so the idea of them is great.
I really hate when you're a little bit late and Rise's goons are there, just because, don't like dealing with them. But when you get to an airdrop and it's all on its lonesome and you pick the locks and you just pick it up and it's like, yeah. And I remember, you were telling me that it raised the game's esteem in your eyes when you first interacted with them. And I would love to know a little more about why that was and what went wrong this time. But I guess Drew wants to, we need to hear from Drew first.
So here's the thing is that in the earlier missions, when I was more open to interacting with the side content in general, I was really struggling with the controls and with the combat. And so I would be trying to like climb a tower. Basically, here's my experience. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm getting disoriented. There's zombies screaming at me from every direction, and it's really annoying. And I'm trying to like find a door to open to like hit a switch or something, or I'm trying to climb a tower, and all of a sudden there's like a little sound up in the corner, and it's like, oh, okay, airdrop was stolen. And I was like, there is an airdrop that dropped. I didn't even realize that. Or it'll be like, this survivor just got fucking killed. I'm like, bro, I didn't even see a person in my vicinity. And so it's just, this will become a recurring theme throughout this whole back half of this podcast, but there were a lot of instances with all the optional stuff, basically. And like I said, with getting really mad at the school mission with the combat, where basically it seemed like Dying Light was basically just like grabbing me and be like, and being like, stop engaging with me in good faith. Stop engaging with me in good faith. And so I did, because I was like, oh my God, I literally cannot keep up with this mentally. So anyway, that's basically all that I had to say. That's why I wanted to let Dave go first so we could actually discuss it.
So you're saying is you didn't even do any of them?
Well, obviously I did the one for the story.
That doesn't count.
No, it doesn't.
I mean
You're
the
right.
ones, the optional ones, the real airdrops.
Well, there were a few times when I tried, I believe. Yeah, I just didn't get to them in time, or I kept like not getting seeing, like I was so zeroed in on trying to like just move from place to place that I would not see the like flare or whatever the signal is. And then I couldn't I just couldn't get to it in time. Like I kept being taken off guard by like the little signal up in the top. And I was like, I didn't even know one dropped.
Really?
Because I just like,
well,
yeah,
Drew,
I just was having a really difficult time.
I'm gonna call you out.
No, please
here, right?
call. Feel free to. I'm saying that I wasn't able to engage with the game because I'm incompetent.
Because one of my favorite parts about the airdrops is how noticeable it is. Like, if you're playing on controller, you hear the airplane, like you can feel the vibration of the airplane prior to it even being like visible yet. And then, like, when you feel that, you're able, like, to look in the sky and, like, see where the hell it is. And you can see it. You can see the airplane fly over, and you can see, like, where it's about to drop it. And then after it actually lands, after that is when it goes, like, that's when it goes, like, boring, or whatever the noise is, right? So I just loved this, like, the whole, anytime I felt a rumble, it was stop anything I'm doing. And, like, look at the sky. Where the fuck is it? Where the fuck is it? I absolutely adored this, like, hey, you're having a good time, like, with the game. You're trying to get to a place. But wait. You need to do this because it's clearly important because the game's made it so important. The tower needs this supplies. And it's like, yeah. I'm the best runner. I'm Crane. I gotta go. Rise is gonna beat me there. I love that, like, if you're too slow, if you're extremely slow, that it'll just say, okay, the airdrop got stolen completely. But if you're a little bit too slow, Rise's men will take half of it, and it's like, how did you transform this shit into canned foods? I make the same point in my video, but it's very silly. I love the fact that you're able to miss it, and I love the chase aspect of it, like the time limit of, I get to use like the parkour elements of the game and rush to something, canonically. Because of course we have the parkour fever challenges, but those like might as well not be canon, because what the fuck is Crane doing? I want to race through all these checkpoints and do this for some reason. Like, why is he doing that?
Yeah, those definitely are not real. Yeah.
Right. So like,
what you just said about stopping everything you're doing right now and going for them, that's actually, in hindsight, that's kind of another one of those little niggles that isn't really an issue, but it just kind of, was at the back of my brain. The idea that, the story mission could be, oh no, Raheem is out there. We don't know. He could be dead. And then you can just go do side quests for 10 hours before you come back to that mission.
It's really bad. Like, I'd say, and again, like, this goes back to the story part with the whole, like, time limit and urgency. Again, there are three things going against it, right? We have the overarching time limit they keep talking about. We have the urgency of everyone needs medicine that we can't get unless we continue the story. And then we have individual quest urgency shit. Like, oh, Jade's in a fucking train car until you're there. She's there for a week, I guess. I don't know. I guess for you, like, the Raheem thing. Oh, we got to get Raheem. Hang on. Tolkien Fatine, let me hear it, buddy. What's that? You want to go get a fucking battery? No problem. It's just like, it's, again, every open world thing has this, but also not really. I think I was more open, to having a blanket statement of every open world game has this, but after playing Far Cry 3 and 4, like some of the most open world slop of the gaming industry, right? That everyone always points to as like, oh, here's some sludge for the masses.
No, it's fair. Ubisoft have that reputation for a reason.
Even in those, though, you start a mission, there isn't an urgency yet until you start the mission, and then you have to go. And it is kind of annoying how sometimes when you accept the mission, there's a big travel time, and you could be doing other stuff, and it's like, oh, I can't right now? Why? I can't do this right now? Oh, you're in a main mission. Yeah, sure. But at the very least, right, there's no like, oh, I'm in this place and, in fucking 1 week a bomb's gonna go off. Like, there's nothing like that, right?
But so the thing about Far Cry, and I guess this isn't completely true, but like the outposts and the towers and a lot of the side missions in the game have an actual effect on the world, like the open world itself. Things get better, like enemy patrols lessen. You can see more points of interest in Far Cry 4, the radio changes, that kind of thing. Where in Dying Light, you could do airdrops and side missions till the cows come home, and the world is exactly the same as it was when you left it.
And that's the crux of it. That's it. When I was playing the game initially, I was I got tricked. One by me and one by the game. And in fact, you could even have the second one be like also me too, because I just didn't understand like video games enough to know to not trust. Like, there's no way the game's actually going to deliver on this. There's no way. So essentially, when I first started it in my first playthrough, again, on my mind was help the tower, do everything I can. Because, like Dave, all the content where you're helping people, that's the best part of the game. The whole like Rise thing, who gives a shit? Seriously. But if the game was just, like you got launched down and you're just helping people, well, that's nice. That'd be cool. That's a cool idea. That's not what happens though. So essentially, like I said, I really like the gameplay portion of it because it encourages the parkour. It has a time limit. Right. Everything until you open up the chest is great. But the game has no fucking idea what to do after that. Again, like Dying Light, this is just like a microcosm of everything Techland. They're like, cool idea? How do we execute and like finish it? I don't know, man. Let's add some people who talk about the backstory. I don't fucking know. Like, they have no idea how to complete anything. Again, like the main story ending sucks. Almost every single side quest ending sucks. And then the airdrop endings suck. Because when you take the airdrops to the quartermaster, he doesn't even talk to you. Or he'll say like, oh, thanks, our children are starving. And he won't even look up out of his clipboard. Or he'll say, he doesn't...
Or he'll say, oh, that'll last us at least another day.
Yeah, like, it's just, it's worse than all talk. Because he doesn't even look at you. His, like, demeanor doesn't change at all. There isn't any like visible like stocks of like rations or something that your hand again. Oh, what's crazy, right? What's crazy? This game has so much fucking attention to detail with animations. You have to pick everything up individually. Every time you open a crate, every time you open a armoire, a fridge, he has to do it. He has to do it himself, right? And yet, when you deliver this shit to the quartermaster, you press a button and you get experience. It's just an experience button. You press the button, you get experience. That's all that happens. It isn't like here's the haul today. No. None of that. It's just, boop, jong, done. That's it. It's so fucking boring. So now this playthrough, I knew that. I had like the veil of bullshit. I tore it down out of my eyes. I knew what this game really was. So I'm like, airdrop, fine. Because again, now how I view airdrops is just
I think that kind of was my issue too. Is I was just like, well, I don't think it's probably not gonna be that real outside of like maybe some extra experience. But I'm already like struggling just to like cross the map a little bit. I think was my main issue. At least at the start.
That's the thing, though, because I would actually say, with all that removed, it's just experience, and I actually think it's really easy experience to get because you don't have to encounter any groups of enemies. You just have to, point crane at like the dot on the minimap and just run there. And I'd say, obviously you're able to get unlucky, now and then if you have that fucking. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's like this mountain. It isn't a real mountain or anything, but like this jut of rocks in the middle of the slums map, and you have to like always find a way around it, and it's really fucking annoying. And also keep that in mind for later. A side quest relates to it. I really want to talk about that, but not quite yet. But yeah, like here's the thing, right? So it's only experience, and Drew, I actually think if you would have tried a bit more, again, it's hard early on because you really
I agree with you. I should have tried a bit more. Let me be clear. Put a picture of Obama on screen. I should have tried harder. I just felt very, very like out of my depth. I think is really where I didn't try as hard to insecurity with the overall like vibe of the game, I think.
No, I completely understand and, sympathize? Whichever word. Whichever one it is. Because obviously you were trying to juggle a lot, and the game is overwhelming, even for a person who likes first-person shooters. There's just a bunch of shit going on, and you don't know that hardly any of it really matters until you try, because of course you're trying to engage the game in good faith, right? But you don't know that all of it's stupid. So, you might kind of get like fatigued and you're overwhelmed. So it's like, I'm not going to do this. I already I want to get this mission done. I'm sure that's what you're thinking. I'm not going to go out of my way to do this stupid thing. But I think if you would have had, it's a shame that they turn off the airdrops halfway in the game because the Old Town doesn't have any. It's a shame because I think if you would have had your expertise with the parkour in like the latter half of the game, I think you'd have done really well chasing down those airdrops.
Yeah, I think if they did them in Old Town, I probably would have even been a little bit more eager to do them too, because the parkour in that area is just fucking excellent.
Yeah, it's way better. Like, I used to think the slums was the best, but I think I only thought that because that's where the airdrops were. Honestly, Old Town is way better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like with the airdrops, you always have chests, and you have to lockpick them. So, Dave and Drew... How sick of lockpicking were you by the end?
So over it.
Do you want to start off ranting, Drew, or should I?
Oh.
Well, look, here's the thing. Is it just stinks. It's not really that intuitive or fun. And, you're lucky that, at least in my experience, fucking lockpicks are one of the more plentiful resources in the fucking game. So it's like, okay, I guess I'll just wiggle my fucking dick around until I open this chest a few times. Like, whatever. It's not like I'm doing anything else if I'm lock picking. So whatever.
And then sometimes when you lock picking, you hear the so I like exit. I'm like, oh wait, they're not around. It's just over there. Damn it. Where was I? But But it's that thing where even if it was the best lockpicking minigame that has ever been in a video game, which it is not, let me be clear.
No.
Let me be Obama.
Oh my God.
But even if it was, any minigame that you have to do hundreds of times over a playthrough is going to get really old by about like the dozen, by about, 10 or more times. After like 10 times, you're over it, right? Like in BioShock, Pipe Dream.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really cool idea for hacking. Then you get to like the second or third area and go, oh, fuck this.
No, I was actually going to bring up the BioShock thing. I think even in like the BioShock minigame, that's always the one I hear anyone point to, like, oh, this gets old really quick. I don't know. I feel like Dying Light's just, there's so much more of it. I think it makes BioShock 1 look good in that regard. And that's not a good sign.
It's it's also like, okay, if a lock is easy, which almost none of them are after like the first couple hours of the game, that's fine, because the difficulty relates to the window you have for being able to turn it at all. And then you can finesse going to where the right point is. I must also say that I hate how even if you're doing it properly, the lockpick will break if you've just used it enough. I thought that was kind of shitty. Because once it breaks, if you're doing a medium or hard, then you've got to work out where your cursor was, because especially on hard, it's got to be in just exactly the right place. And I guess what I hated about that was it was almost, I always bring this up when it comes to talking about games, but it was binary. It felt binary a lot of the time, where either I get really lucky and wherever I put the cursor first was in the general area, or right on the unlock, which I've done that heaps of times. And it was like, woo, I only had to spend like, 3 seconds on this. Yes. And then if it wasn't there immediately, it felt like I'd have to waste 10 lockpicks and 5 minutes trying to find it.
Yes.
I've heard that it's not so bad to go through lockpicks, because if you're like fearing it's about to break, just back out and try again. But it doesn't like fix the issue where you have to still get back to where you were.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't fix that part of it. So it's just it's kind of neat because it is in real time, and you have to keep all the zombies around you in mind. But even then, I got really tired of that at the end, and I was just thinking, I wish this wasn't in real time, because have you guys noticed, by the way, zombies just be spawning all over the place?
Yes.
In Section 0 in Old Town, that was actually a real bugbear, especially with the virals, because there were moments where, I was about to enter a shop for whatever reason, and it's like, okay, there's a couple virals, that's normal, and then there'd be like another viral, another viral, another viral, another viral. There'd be like 5 to 10 of them. No joke. Like, that's hardly an exaggeration for some of them. Like it was just, and then of course there's the normal ones, and then of course, yeah, sometimes it spawns in an exploder. Oh, the game loves its fucking exploders. But just yeah, especially in Old Town, it was like they turned the dial up to, oh, you want to actually get somewhere? Well, let's just throw some virals at you.
Yeah, on one hand, right, it does facilitate the idea, stay on the rooftops, which, sure, but, I'm conflicted, right? Because I don't know if I want to be able to game the game this much, but when you're just, like, fighting just the random spawn rate, it feels like you're just, why am I even playing? Because, like, even with me, Of course, Old Town gets insane, but I'm even talking about when I was in the slums and there would be like a very hard lockpick, for like a police van. I would literally spend 2 minutes, 3 minutes clearing out every normal zombie around me, right? It would take a long time. My equipment wasn't great. Why I wanted to get into the police truck, right? And then I'm like, I have time now. And I see just like, oh, actually, no, even though you spent way too long to clear these out, 3 zombies crawled out under like a different van for some reason, because that's how we spawn them in. Why can't the game at least if you've put in the work to clear some shit out in your immediate area, don't spawn shit in your immediate area. Like, spawn them out of the blue and, like, off screen, 100 feet away, or perhaps like 20 feet, and have them walk to you. Why are we doing this shit where they spawn right where you are?
Yeah, well, like when you're running through the towns in the slums, like you'll see, virals crawl out of vents and shit like that. And that's cool when you're running through, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, the game is like organically loading in zombies in interesting ways. And it's funny you talk about, the keeping to the rooftops, because it seems like they tried to adjust for that as well in Old Town, because late game, my last session, I noticed that suddenly there were all these zombies all on the rooftops everywhere. They still weren't a threat or anything, but it was just weird how suddenly, oh yeah, almost every rooftop has a couple zombies on it now.
Yeah, how the fuck do you get here? I mean, again, you could probably say, oh, the person was bitten and they went up on the roof, and that's where they die. Well, whatever. But it's just like, okay, we just have to, or like when they're on, well, I guess because that's the mechanism of becoming a zombie in here, then you could easily excuse them being anywhere. So I guess you can't complain too much, because it's like, no, the human went there before they, whatever. But yeah, the lock picking. Yeah, so even on the first playthrough, when I was really into it, right? Even then, I wasn't even in Old Town yet. I was still in the slums. But after a while, I would see a hard lock pick. There was, like, for example, I think there's a side quest where you go into the house and there's 2 lockers there, and they're both hard lock picks. And I just looked at them and I'm like, no, that's just going to take too long for nothing. Because I'm sure you guys could tell, the way the loot works is just progression based. It's always based on your level. Anytime you open up a loot anytime you get a weapon, it's always going to be around what level you currently are. So really, there isn't ever a chance to find something truly great. It'll just be something at your current level.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I didn't notice it was meant to be things at your current level, but I did notice that like specific containers would always have like the same types of like items. Like it didn't feel very randomized.
That's also true. Yep. I know this is something I pointed out in the video. Basically, if it's an unlocked chest, it'll always be a valuable and like a throwing item or something. If it's a locked chest, it'll always be like a valuable and a melee weapon. Like it's always set. And also, this gigantic chest always has 3 inches of a breathing room in there, because it's like elevated for some reason. Like even in Zelda, Link jumped in the chest sometimes. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's almost like blankets, like shit. It's almost like how they advertise chips these days. Look at this big bag, and it's like all air. It's like,
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like a fucking bag of chips. You're so right.
The one that got me is the laundry hampers, which would always have like a candy bar in them.
Oh, jeez. I'm pretty sure I already mentioned it, right? How like, oh, actually, I might not have. The whole like looting aspect overall, we're just, man, if I see a bus, I'd think, bro, there's gotta be goodies in there. There's a bunch of people in there at one point. No, if you go into a bus, you'll only find bags, and in bags you'll only find like $8 or like a battery. It's always so pointless. So this whole playthrough, I just avoided every bus because I'm not getting tricked again. Or like all of the unlocked vans will contain a duffel bag, which will contain like $3. Who gives a shit? So it's just like, it's so. Yeah. Would the word row tier make sense? It's so predictable and just like,
Well, here's the problem. Like, you know how there's always that the things that I know intellectually, but like emotionally, I might not be there yet. Like it's almost that break between the things you know and the things you believe, and it can be hard to align the two of them up. I'm pretty much like I didn't explicitly see what you're talking about, but yeah, from about the halfway point of my playthrough onwards, I intellectually knew that most looting was not worth my time, yet emotionally, because it's a game and it's immersive and you're breaking into places and there's all these things to pick up, especially if you hit the dinger and you see all the little diamonds everywhere, like, ooh, goodies. Like, I could never really fight the urge to just scrounge everything that seemed important, at least to me.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're talking about, because that's what happened on the first playthrough. Like, I knew after a while that these GRE chests in the quarantine zones, which I doubt you guys even went into, but I'll get to that in a bit. I knew they would just contain a weapon, and a valuable that I didn't really care about. But it's like it's almost like this game takes advantage of your knowledge of other games. Like it tricks you in a way where it's like, dude, in other games you go around and loot stuff, and that feels good. We have that too. Trust me, it'll be fun. Just do it. And it's like I know looting is fun in other games. But it's almost like even though the results every time aren't good, it's like it doesn't click. It doesn't click with your brain,
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't put you off of it, because exploring without looting is like that isn't what the game wants you to do. But
and if you ever find like a weapon that's purple anywhere, it's like, or orange, it's like, it's that Diablo or Borderlands thing. It's like, oh, it's special. I gotta get it. Yeah, they're never good. Like it's actually, I don't know if you want to specifically talk about the crafting and the weapons, but
I do right now.
Okay, because
I was gonna move on to it. Yeah.
I think I've said before on this podcast, maybe not, maybe I've just said it to you, but I've never liked crafting systems in games, because I think it adds into that just, it adds so much extra time in the game, because you're then conditioned to, grab everything that's not nailed down. And most of it doesn't seem interesting until you actually want to make stuff that's useful to you. And I will say, like, a lot of the consumable items are very useful. I crafted plenty of med kits, plenty of lockpicks, plenty of throwing stars, plenty of flares. There was some other stuff. Oh, here's something interesting. In the early game, I got enough craftable materials to make some weapons recipes I had that I don't recall picking up. I think they're just given to you with the DLC. I bought like the definitive edition. Like you can get this electric police baton, or you can get this wrench that causes bleeding. And for, I think, the first half of the entire game, because I kept having the ability to craft these items over and over, and they were very useful, I just stuck to crafting these DLC items. Now, eventually they ran out, and then I started experimenting with adding the effects to certain weapons I had, and then actually looking at the damage they do. And even, when I had more money than I knew what to do with, I would start buying what seemed to be really cool base weapons from the storekeep. So I could then, add impact, or add bleeding, or add burning, or add electricity to them. And yeah, they were really cool weapons. Like if you craft something really cool, it's great. And I was going to veer into a Breath of the Wild. Oh, but the weapons, they eventually break. But in this game, it didn't feel as bad, because you could repair each one a number of times. So that was really cool, I thought. Although I really disliked how it always seemed to happen when I was in the middle of a melee, and suddenly I got your weapon doesn't work anymore. I'm like, oh, shit. So I thought that was cool. But then I guess it's the same counter argument to the people who complain about the weapons in Zelda, is that you always have so many weapons, usually better ones than the ones you're using. So just change and create something new. And at least in this game, it was easier to get into that mentality of, oh, this weapon's about to go. Okay, I'll just scrap it for the one metal part, and now I'll craft this thing. Ooh, this thing's really cool. Okay, I'm going to use this for the next hour or two until it breaks.
Well, what I was going to say is my experience crafting weapons is like, okay, first of all, can we just get this very obvious complaint out of the way, is that every time you want to make literally anything, you have to click on it one time, and you can't make it in bulk, and the bar has to go across the screen for a solid second, and the time really adds up.
No. I'm you said it. The floodgates are open. What the fuck? Okay. So I make this point in the video, but I'm ready to talk about it again because it's so fucking stupid, guys. Okay, sure, hard mode and nightmare mode, like your menus aren't actually a pause menu, so it is taking up time in real time. What the fuck ever. I don't give a shit about that. All right, on normal and easy, just hurry the shit up. Like, dude, I hate going in there and crafting shit because it just takes forever. It's so slow and so boring. And also, by the way, little side tangent. I know. What is with these menus, dude? They don't even tell you how many you have of them.
They're so bad.
And I know there were hotkeys to get to specific ones, but I guess I never internalized them. So I think I just hit either I or O on my keyboard. It would bring up one of the menus, and then I just have to cycle through to the one I wanted. So and actually, okay, here's a big fucking complaint from me. I should have been able to press M and pull up the map. I shouldn't have to go switching through my menus to find the fucking map. Like if this was on controller, you press, they're not called select anymore, but you press the select button and you bring up the map, and every fucking game does this because all these games, the map is so important. This is no exception. And it was just so difficult to get to the map.
Can I even back up another second? Can I tell you guys something about playing this game on my PS4? So, to open the menu, you use the touchpad. Now, the menu doesn't open when you push the touchpad. The menu opens when you touch the touchpad. And I have really big fat thumbs. So I kept accidentally opening the fucking menu. I kept opening the entire menu when I would accidentally like slip off the stick a little bit, and it just like was so fucking annoying. But what I wanted to say about crafting is my experience was I did make some very cool shit. That's not to be denied. But this kind of ties into my vicious cycle with, I'm sure after this we'll probably end up talking about like either melee combat or side quests, but I, through looting or even like your supplies are very limited, right? Like this is in part kind of a survival-esque game. Like I never felt like I was able to make enough like unique weapons to fully get done everything that I wanted to with the story. And then I made a lot of throwing stuff because melee combat was so just like I just like kept getting my clock cleaned. That's like a wrestling term. You guys can relate to that. I kept getting my clock cleaned. So I was trying to make some ranged stuff, which is obviously with the game being in a zombie apocalypse, like supplies are pretty limited. Now, the vicious cycle this ended up leading to, and I had to rant to a friend of mine who fucking loves Dying Light. Like, bless her heart, she was such a fucking champ because I was just whining and being a little bitch. But I kept saying, so I can't get experience or loot from doing side quests because I can't finish the side quests because a lot of them are like I'll be like, okay, let me take on a side quest, and then it ends up being about combat, but then I can't make the stuff that helps me get through the combat because I can't find any fucking supplies, which also really fucking frustrated me because, like I said, I was just getting very, very overwhelmed by the game. I think that's when I came to a head in the school mission, and I like just kind of switched over to easy mode. Because then what I ended up learning is that when you die, enemies kind of like don't reset the amount of damage you've done to them. They like keep it. So you can just like throw yourself at them for an endless amount of lives basically, and you'll end up finishing a combat encounter. And I just kind of wish I knew that, because like I said, it's like if you're trying to engage with this game in good faith, then you're gonna be like, oh, okay, I need to actually like try in the combat encounters. But then it's like, nope, just be reckless and like turn your brain off. You don't actually have to try. You'll get through it eventually. It'll just take longer than if you actually tried, which is very strange.
The problem, though, I mean, it depends where you are, but the respawn locations are a bit annoying.
Yes, that is a good point. Yeah, that you can't abuse the strategy outside of story missions. That's true.
I really enjoyed opening up like the safe houses in the first playthrough. I assume you guys didn't feel the same.
I did not feel the same because so much of them revolve around like you gain access to the safe part by doing the melee combat, which sucks ass. It's horrible.
Well, actually, a lot of the ones I did was I threw a firecracker outside of it, drew everyone out there, and then closed the door.
Okay, see, here's the difference between you and me is you're actually like observant and smart in this survival-based game, so that actually makes a lot more sense.
I did I did all the safe houses in the slums. I got most of them in Old Town. There was one that it wouldn't let me finish it for whatever reason. So I don't know what was up with that, but I think I unlocked all of them.
Nice. Yeah, I like the firecrackers are genuinely game changing. Like if you abuse them, like the entire game is way easier. So like that was.
I have no idea why I didn't put that strategy together. That seems so fucking obvious. It's just one of those things where like, so I'm a stubborn bitch. Like I'll throw myself at a challenge like a lot. So I guess my mindset was like, oh, okay, this is supposed to be a melee encounter, but that makes so much more sense. That's actually really cool.
So again, I remember when I first played the game and I had the video almost done and I was going back in to get some specific footage. So I had to start a new game and like do everything I think up to the Kareem missions, right? And I was so in love again. I was like, man, I want to just play this entire game again. I love the feeling of like, here's a goon. We'll get to him later. Here's a goon. How do I get into this area? Oh, I have tools at my disposal. Let's craft some stuff and, like figure out a way through this obstacle. Again, I guess was taking the orange pill. This is a very orange colored game. Sure. The orange pill. And I was very much like, Dying Light is so cool. But, no, I don't feel that way anymore. I tried to get into like the crafting stuff again. It's just almost not even worth it because like the way to equip it, like the quick select menu is clunky. Your actual like backpack menu is clunky. You always want to have certain things out anyway, so really you have 2 slots to play with. It also counts against your backpack, so like your melee weapons and your shurikens count the same. The crafting menu itself sucks because you don't even know. It's just there's so much going against it for me. I was like, dude, I'm just gonna smack him with a stick and shoot him in the face, and we're just gonna get through this fucking game.
Yeah.
All right. So like for example, oh here's a goon. How do I get through this guy? No, I'm just gonna shoot him in the head 100 times. Like I'm tired of this game. Like.
Yeah. The second I got a gun, I was like, so now I can actually just like make progress without bashing my fucking head through a wall.
It is really stupid how like it does that, like like when you die. It reminds me again, like we talked about BioShock, when you played through BioShock 1 when you had like the Vita chambers turned on. Drew, this will be like a little bit outside of your expertise, but Dave, I'm sure you remember this. But basically, if you died in BioShock, you would just respawn at the nearest Vita chamber, and nothing of consequence really happened. Like you didn't lose, like there wasn't experience to lose. You didn't have to start anything over. You just went into a different spot in the map. So that's basically what this is, except at the very least, BioShock had a contextualized reason for it. And Dying Light's just like, listen, we kind of gave up a while ago. Here you go. It's just endless.
It does take your survivor experience from you, but like, who cares?
Yeah.
That's your character level. I heard that from some YouTuber. Yeah. I think we're pretty much there. So like melee combat overall, it's pretty boring, right? You just swing and that's it. When you agree.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you can block the incoming attack if you swing when they're attacking, and that's like nuance, man. That means it's like a really intricate, complex system, man. I can't keep that up.
And then it gets even like more fucking deep because when you encounter a not zombie enemy, they can literally just fucking dodge and duck out of the way or block your attack, and you run out of stamina, but like they don't run out of stamina, and it's fucking awesome.
Dude, like the punishment for when you run out of stamina is ridiculous in my opinion. Like
so
you are just so
stupid,
fucked,
yeah.
Especially if you're going against like virals. You're just like, man, like that is such a because not only does it take a long time for it to go back up again, it like if you're all the way empty, it just stays empty for like 2 or 3 seconds. Like you done fucked up there. It's like, are you kidding me with this?
Can I even just say, I feel like the game just doesn't benefit from having stamina. Like maybe I'm off base here, but I feel like I would just like to always be sprinting.
Yeah, I agree. And what's crazy is that so like the stamina for your melee isn't the same for your stamina when you're running. It's two totally different stamina bars that you don't even get to see, which is crazy because this time I was like, you know what? I hate this skill. I almost never use it. It's like one of the first like agility skills. You can choose instead of sliding, which is actually helpful, or perhaps a survivor skill. I forget, but you can choose to craft potions. Oh, cool! I'm like, you know what? I'm doing it this time. I'm doing it. And not only is it so out of your way, because like you have to grab herbs and shit. I don't know where the herbs are. Who the fuck knows where herbs are? You know,
they're always on a mountain or in a cave or underwater.
So fucking tedious, right? So by the end, when I'm like, oh, here we go. Okay, I have enough to make this stamina potion. Sorry, guys. Stamina potion is for your melee stamina. So I was running, like, here I go. I had to make a different potion which had different ingredients. And I'm like, dude, this game sucks so hard. That's why like the parkour like fever challenges are great, because every time you hit one of the markers, your stamina gets like regened. So you can keep running and it feels great there. So yeah, it's almost like, why did they even put stamina in the game if the melee combat has nothing going for it?
Stamina, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, like the melee combat has nothing going for it. And like the running is the point of the game, and you have to like every now and then go, okay, stop.
Oh, I hate that.
Okay, go again.
But actually, you know, for me, it just hit me. The melee combat is even worse because I was thinking about the parts of the melee I liked, like when you decapitated a zombie in one hit. That's always really satisfying, especially when I got to hear his knife. I used that for the rest of the game, and that had a high crit chance. So I was decapitating everyone. It was glorious. But then there's that other really, like, it's supposed to be a really cool thing where you crack one of their bones and it slow-mos and you get a shot of their skeleton like it's Mortal Kombat. Yeah. But the thing that's so stupid about that, it's supposed to be a crit. It's supposed to be like a deadly injury. But I'd say 75% of the time they just got back up. It was a crit. It didn't kill them. I'm like, so why did you show me that?
Yeah, it's super weird because like there are plenty of games where you can deal impact to certain limbs and shit and have an impact on the thing. And of course they're undead. They shouldn't be whatever. Well, then they're just completely useless then. So it's like, oh, slow-mo, you broke that guy's skull. But it doesn't do anything, so who cares? Like, yeah. I'm pretty sure like there is a skill or something where it's like, oh, you can, you know, if an enemy is stunned, press this and it'll, whatever.
Yeah, that's like when you get them down on the ground, you're supposed to like smash their skull in with that, right?
I love that one because in Old Town, I was because yeah, that's the problem I had. They'd be down on the ground. You'd hack them like 5 times. You'd even done a skull crack, and I would go to them, you know, to loot them, and they'd still be alive. Like what the fuck? And then, so when I had that skill that you can stomp their skull when they're on the ground, instead of looting them, that would open up, and at least it would be like, okay, well, I can kill this thing for sure. But the funny thing was, many times there'd be a zombie on the roof. And I'd hit it a few times and it would fall halfway off the building. So it would still be like it hadn't completely fallen off yet. I'd go over to it, and the prompt would be to kick the zombie's head in. So I press it, and Crane explodes its head just as it's basically going over the edge. So as it's falling, his head explodes. I'm like, that's funny, but again, that's useless.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the best place to like it's almost a really cheesy skill, like once you get the hang of it, because basically anytime you see a viral hop on a van, they're gonna climb up and then you do it immediately and they're instantly dead. Like it's I feel like that's not what they intended it for. It seems like it was intentional for like a, you know, if you have a zombie down to do it, but it's like instead it became you can cheese every viral in the game by climbing onto a 5-foot structure.
Yeah.
So, now that we've talked about hitting the normal zombies, what do we feel about these special infected? Am I right? Ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bam, bum, ba-dum, dum, bum, bum.
I wasn't reacting to your wonderful bass solo because I was just exhaling all my frustration for the special zombies because you brought them up. I will say I have a funny note where I think it was the first time they introduced a couple of them. I write, oh, hello, there's a spitter and there's a zombie that explodes. Hello, Left 4 Dead.
I understood that reference.
Oh, that's great. I love how all these talking points come up, and I'm just like, this will be really funny when you eventually watch my video, you know, at night tonight or whatever. Because it's going to be like, oh, yeah, yep. So this time we're not going to do, we love on Post Game Clarity, we love to rank things, to have a list. We love it. However, we kind of agreed that it would just be kind of superfluous because, I mean, like a thing ranked 3 would just mean we didn't hate it as much as the other ones. Like, is there even a zombie we like in this game?
No.
You know, like what even is number 1?
I do have a best and I do have a worst. So I did think not long and hard about it. Both answers came to me very quickly, but I do have an answer to that.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to do our favorite and our least favorite. I want to start with Drew. Drew, what was your least favorite special zombie?
My least favorite special zombie, probably the virals, because I was trying to get to grips with are the virals the ones at night?
No, those are the volatiles.
The volatile. Okay, I hate the volatiles the most because there were only a few times that I ended up out at night, and that was really when I could just not make any fucking progress without having to head straight to a safe room, just because the volatiles get on your ass. So if you run out of stamina for like 2 seconds, or if you make one wrong jump because you're not the best at first person movement, especially at the start of the game, then you just get fucked. Like you just get pinned down and fucked. So I did not enjoy the volatiles one bit. And also they make the most annoying noises out of any zombie. I know there's one that's literally named the Screamer, but every zombie in this game makes fucking annoying noises.
Yeah.
Like, it reminded me when I used to volunteer at a daycare, because I'm trying to fucking do a simple task, but I have all these people. It doesn't even matter if the zombies are around you or not, because you always hear somebody in the distance, like putting you on edge and just being like, ah!
Yeah.
It's like, shut up. And then the volatiles are like the worst of all, and then they get right on your ass, and I'm just like, I'm just sitting there just feeling so grossed out. It's so unenjoyable.
I think I want to bounce off this because I think the volatiles are my favorite of the game. The atmosphere at night is really hard to top, I think. Like, the game is already immersive, but and you see, what I really like is using like the mini map and seeing their vision and trying to find a good way around it. To me, it's just an extension of this zombies are hazardous terrain. You know, you have to avoid them on your way to your objective. I like that idea a lot. That's why I love Death Stranding, right? I just like the idea of getting to, you know, from point A to B is a little bit tricky. Hey, like Dead Rising. Anyway, it's a little bit tricky. So you have to figure out like the best route, you know, like almost on like a moment-to-moment basis. I really don't like how it feels on hard and on Nightmare because you don't get to see their visions on the map at all. I don't even think you have a map or something. So I just think that just sucks overall. I don't think that the sound design is good enough. I don't think it's enjoyable to look around all around you or use like the survivor vision to see them through, you know, walls. I don't think that's fun. So, you know, for me, seeing like where their cone is, it's like, this is really cool and stealthy. I need to be stealthy because they're so deadly, you know? I do think they're too cheesy because like, if they're on top of you, it's just like, what are you supposed to do? You know, like you can't do anything.
Yep.
Like you're fucked, you know? But again, that also mean, you know, you want to make sure you're stealthy. So it's kind of hard. I can't fully criticize how cheesy they are because that's what gives nighttime its tension. But at the same time, you know, they are a little bit annoying. I will grant you that. And I'm sure if you didn't like nighttime, yeah, I can totally see why every time you'd see one, you're like, yeah, I'll avoid that the whole game. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I will agree though. Like the nighttime does have a good scary atmosphere to it. I probably just like the game just already wasn't putting me in the best mood a majority of my playthrough. So I think by the time I got there, I was like, okay, it's scary. Okay, well, it's the same annoying game. It's just kind of scary now. So then I'm just sitting there like with like my fucking neck hair standing on end. It's so fucking. So I just really was not in the mood.
Yeah, that opening chase, it's so weird because I think it's really like, you know, like luck of the draw because you can't, it's first person. You can't see how close they are behind you unless you press and hold, I think for Drew, the triangle button, you can see behind you.
Yeah,
but why would
so.
you do that? Because you know, it isn't like a proper rear view mirror. You got to look ahead of you, you know? So it's like, it's almost like never a good thing. Plus like the skill to be able to look back and throw things behind you is unlocked way later in the game. So it's almost like, wow, this is halfway useful. But it's so weird. On that first chase, I got really lucky on the first playthrough. It was really tense. I didn't get caught, but they were chasing me somehow. I somehow managed to avoid them. Oh my god, this playthrough, I feel like I did the same thing, but they were on me and they kept hitting me. And when they're... It's such a strange conundrum you have. When you know you probably have 3 of them behind you, all leaping at you, all dealing damage to you. What are you supposed to do right then and there? You know, I think the idea is you're always supposed to have like your UV light out so you can like turn around and you know, quickly like use it on them and stun them. But I guess at the time I didn't think of it. I don't know. It's just, it's so funny how that one can go so right or so wrong. Because tons of people online will go, that first night, oh my god, one of the best gaming experiences of my life. Like seriously, like you'll find that out there. Dave,
no,
I
can totally see that too. That sounds. If it does go right for you, I can totally see that being like one of the coolest things ever.
Dave, how did you like the first night with the volatiles?
Well, they got me a couple times. Also, when they killed me, I spawned in this safe house in the middle of that slum area that wasn't on the map, so I guess it was just a hidden safe house. That happened a few times in the game where it spawns you in like this safe place that you never knew about. After the first time, I got back to the tower pretty easily. They were on me, but I managed to, I guess, stay high enough or make enough turns to stop them. The second time, when you have to get the the blooper blood or whatever, you have to get the blood of that special one.
Oh, the bolter, yeah.
Bolter, yeah. Once I got the bolter, you know, I had to use fireworks to lure the volatiles away from them. And then once I got the bolter, they were on my ass. So I used the flares, and that kept them at bay. So that was tense. But, you know, the only time I ever dealt with them was in the story missions, except there was one side quest where I had to go to one of the train warehouses to, I forget what I was there for, but basically, like many things in this game, it took me, I'd say, like 20 minutes to actually find what the game wanted me to find because I didn't know what I could open or had to enter the place I needed to enter. And then finally I worked it out. And it was in this side room off to the side where you have to actually like climb up to the roof and then walk along a chain link fence and drop down. And as I was in there, it turned to night and the volatiles were out. And I could see them all over the warehouse, like all over the warehouse. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm in this space where they don't seem to be able to get in. So I'm just going to open up all the doors and explore this entire space. And then I'm going to walk back and forth. And luckily, you know, time moves very quickly on the in-game clock. So I think I was probably only there for like 5 to 10 minutes. But then dawn broke and most of the arrows went away. There were a couple left and I guess they turned into virals, but I got out of there. But I guess you also wanted to ask me about the first night because I brought up that I wanted to just bring up the final mission where you have to go down into the basement or the sewers or whatever it was, and there's all volatiles everywhere. At the time, I was so mad because, you know, it was at the end of that, well, it was the night after, but, you know, I hadn't been having good gameplay sessions, and I hated going through the sewers, and everything about the final mission was shitting me off. So I wasn't actually enjoying the chase, but now that I've, like, it actually happened pretty quickly where I look back at what the game had me do. You know, it's basically like, make sure your parkouring is perfect and they're always popping up and you're always like jumping over huge water ravines. So, you know, they can't only chase you for a short amount of time. And I had about 8 of those special flares that guy makes for you. So I was dropping them and apparently I killed a couple of them. So I got the achievement for killing a volatile. Maybe they fell in the water. I don't know how, but I kept just throwing the flares as I was running. But I thought that was a really good chase sequence, like just the way that little under area was designed. You really felt like they were always on your ass. And if you made one mistake in the parkour, you would die, which I did do a couple times. But yeah. That one, I guess, because that one felt a lot more designed. You know, the first night also kind of feels well designed because the shanty town that they appear in is pretty close to the tower. You know, you just have to go down the hill to that other shanty town and then you're basically there. So I think they put them there because it's actually pretty easy to keep to the rooftops and weave through buildings to kind of get them off your tail. Like, when it worked, yeah, that probably leads into how you said a lot of people love that original chase because it didn't work for me because they caught me a couple times. But yeah, when it works, I can see how exciting and fun the volatiles can be.
Totally. That was really good because we got through all of the, like, that was literally just, Drew, what was your least favorite? And that all stemmed from that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you were able to talk about the lead up to Rise. I do think it almost funny. It's funny because it almost goes back to my old other point where like the linear parts of the game are sometimes the best. I don't
Sometimes.
think. Well, I think all of the Rise shit is not. Like all of the Rise guys and like the school. Jesus, so boring. I hate the school mission so much. But like, as I said, the antenna mission for me really hit. And for you, the ending leading to Rise with the parkour really hit. And with Drew, the museum hit because it looked different. Cool. So it's just like linear parts, sometimes it's like, wow, maybe you shouldn't have done open world then. You know, maybe this was a mistake. Yeah. So with all that being said, Drew, what was your favorite zombie?
I don't know. Probably the normal ones are the least annoying. I don't know.
Nope. Normal ones aren't special.
You just said I'm looking at the list in the Discord chat right now. You said I'll list them all right now so we're all on the same page. Normal, virals, volatiles, goons, spitters, bombers, big charger, tank, berserker guy.
All right. Dave, what is your least favorite zombie type?
Mine are actually my least favorite is the virals, and it's basically for the same reason Drew had hating the volatiles. I hated their scream, especially when like in Old Town, you know, a viral would burst out of a window when I was like, you know, crossing a rooftop, so there's no way they could get to me, but they would burst out everywhere. And even if they weren't a threat, I just always had to hear them scream as I'm running around. Like, I hate the sound of the normal zombies a lot too, just the moaning and groaning. Like, you're exactly right, Drew. I found all the zombie noises distressing, and perhaps that means they're effective. But, you know, when it's a big open world, multi-hour experience, you just don't want to be dealing with that the whole time, especially, I'm guessing you dislike them so much because, like me, you have like some auditory processing issues, and certain sounds can just throw you for a loop.
Yeah, they get it in your skull. But the other thing too is, like, obviously there's other games with zombies that have similar sound effects, like, you know, Left 4 Dead or Resident Evil. Like, all those guys are very noisy little critters too. But like in Resident Evil, that's kind of the name of the game, is to like be put completely on edge. And in Left 4 Dead, like, it's a shooter. Like, you're talking with your buddies while you're just mowing them down anyway.
And but I'd say, you know, because I do enjoy both those games, I don't recall the sound design being difficult or annoying in them to me. Maybe certain special screams, like I always thought the hunter scream was a little shrill in Left 4 Dead. I never really liked it that much, but you know, it didn't. You know what it is? Even though hunters are one of the more common special infected in that game, you don't see them like every 10 seconds. It feels like as the game ramped on and on and on, virals were everywhere and they just would not stop screaming. And it's just, I found it so shrill. And it's weird. I want to say they were harder to put down, but actually I found that it was one of those up in the air things where sometimes the virals were a lot easier to kill than the normal infected, and sometimes they were just beefy tanks. I'm guessing
it's
that
because they run right to you, so if you time your swing correctly, you can just completely throw them off balance and then kick them down.
Yeah, well, I wonder, Dork, maybe you know this for certain or not, but like, do zombies have like random health pools that they draw from, or is it just that the attack damage is either like body part specific or has a random element to it as well?
I don't know if enemy health is randomized like that. It has to be scaled in like some way. So obviously it isn't consistent from level 1. But I think it's more because I was watching back like some of my footage when I played the first time, and I was getting a lot more clean, decapitations then. I think as long as you keep your weapons upgraded and more on the higher side for your level, and you aim right at their neck, especially for the virals, because they run into you. I think the charge into your swing when it's at the right angle, it more often than not, I think, just gets a clean head swipe.
Right.
So I don't know if it's the health or if it's just like, yes, you aimed exactly right, and like their velocity was somehow taken into account too. Because if that is the case, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting.
Wouldn't say it makes the combat amazing by any means, because even though I did enjoy decapitating the zombies the first time through, just didn't really. I don't know. I just kind of fighting zombies in this game is just a chore. It's just get out of the way. If I could just blink and you're all gone, I'd take that. It's not fun to do.
Which, in the early hours of the game is actually really great, because it's like, oh, I don't want to actually fight these guys. It's the parkour thing. I need to keep away from them. I need to keep up high. That's great. And then the game's just like, we want to focus on actually having to make you fight a lot of them. We want to introduce ones that you actually really want to deal with. Yeah. We're going to put those big beefy bastards in front of objectives, so you got to fucking kill those guys, and they're always going to be a pain in your ass.
Don't talk about those guys yet.
Have you actually created a robust and interesting combat system so the player is going to enjoy actually fighting the zombies? Nah, let's just focus on the parkour.
And I almost think that's the reason why. So that's like one of the reasons why I was so eager to approach this as like, oh, this is an immersive sim like open world zombie game. Cool. Because in a lot of early immersive sims, the melee combat is very rudimentary, right? It's absolutely nothing special. But it's simple because there's a lot of systems in the game that like make up for it. It's not supposed to be like a Devil May Cry, thing. And that's kind of why I was like, oh, okay, or even like, I mean, it'd be, perhaps I shouldn't use this as an example because I know everyone critiqued it at the time too, but even like an Elder Scrolls, like Oblivion, there's not that many swing animations, but there's a lot of role-playing stuff to be had there, character building stuff to be had there, so it kind of makes up for the fact that like your swings are kind of boring. There's just none of that here, so it's just like, okay, the simplicity of it loses its appeal because there's nothing else picking up the slack besides the parkour, so it's like, and you're parkouring to avoid, yet you're making me engage, and I can't parkour. So, speaking of that, you guys are so lucky, right? I, for the video, played through all the DLCs. You would have hated Hellraid. Hellraid, no parkour at all melee shit. You're in this, like, magical dungeon thing where all you fight are like skeletons and like
wait a minute, why in this zombie apocalypse with a as grounded tone as you could probably achieve for the most part, are you in a magical skeleton dungeon?
So like the theory is that Techland wanted to make a game called Hellraid but didn't get approval or something, so they made it a DLC for Dying Light.
Okay.
And what's even worse?
Fair enough for them then.
It has really, really low ratings on Steam, or at the very least, not great. But here's the funny part. So there's like 3 or 4 like different editions of Dying Light, like Dying Light, the following enhanced edition, complete edition, all this shit. Who knows what who knows what's in any of them at a glance. Hellraid isn't in any of them. Hellraid is always a separate purchase.
Oh my god.
So everyone's like, I'm paying $10 for this shit? Like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
And
well, hey, I was also disappointed because I remember I talked to you in the group chat about this store because I was walking in the tower for the first time, and you go in a bathroom and there's a big spooky arcade cabinet there that's Hell Raiders or whatever. And I was like, oh, do you get to like unlock the ability to play it at a certain point? Is it going to be like Rapunzel from Catherine? That would be pretty cool. And you were like, no, it's DLC. I was like, oh.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. You'd hate it anyway. No, like, that's one of my biggest... That's one of like the biggest things. So I think I mostly agree with everything I say in my video, except the Hellraid. I tried to do Hellraid again this time, and in the video I'm like, oh, Hellraid's pretty fun, it's almost like Oblivion except like with slightly better combat. I'm like, dude, 2022 Dorkaxe, what the fuck are you talking about? This is so boring. Like, what are you talking about?
It's like when you said okay to the Demon Souls remake. It's just copium.
I don't know if it... I wonder if I was just so into the game, the first time through that I was just like... And it helped I was streaming it. So I bet because I was streaming it was more fun too.
Yeah. I just want to cycle a little back. You talked about how boring and one-dimensional the melee combat is. I was just thinking, at least for me, one thing that could fix a good chunk of it is if the zombies, at least the normal ones, went down with like one swipe no matter what, as long as, you had like a decent weapon.
Yeah.
Because
I kind of wish it was a little bit more Dynasty Warriors like, yeah.
Yeah, just because there's so many of them, and you do usually have decent weapons, and yet, and same thing with, Drew, I was making a lot of stars, and I somehow found a lot of like throwing axes or military knives, so I would always have like a throwable weapon. You can clock a normal zombie in the head with like 5 stars, and sometimes they still walk. It sucks so much joy out of it. It's kind of like this may be a weird comparison. So in Diablo 3, when you start a brand new game, I think you can choose up to like there's 3 difficulties you can choose from. And then Torment is locked, I think, until you get your character to max level or you beat the game. When you're playing on normal, which is the default difficulty, most enemies in that game, you click on them, they die. It's just, they're very squishy because you're going to be killing millions of enemies throughout this game. But if you up the difficulty, you get more experience, there's better loot drops. Basically, a lot of the guides for Diablo 3 will say, at the very least, you want to play on hard so you get the increased experience gain. And like when you get kind of hardcore into Diablo and you want to get up to Torment and the higher levels as quickly as possible because you want to get the awesome loot that is only available on those higher levels, because Diablo is a very loot-centric game.
Sure.
I've just never been able to vibe with it, because even like the first ghoul, I think the first enemies in Diablo 3 are like zombies or ghouls. They're undead. And on hard, you click on them and they take 2 to 3 hits, whereas on normal they took 1. And it just feels so bad to me. I get the reasoning for wanting to get the XP boosts, but it's just like, especially in a top-down game like Diablo, where you click on things and they die, kind of like a Dynasty Warriors. I've never been able to click with one of those games, but I see the appeal is you're just mowing down hundreds of enemies in front of you. You want to be able to feel like your character has an effect on the world, and while I understand the reasonings in Diablo, it just, I always start my games on normal until I get to a certain gear level, and then I bump it up to the next one, because then when I go to hard, suddenly I'm high enough level that I'm still killing things in like one shot, and it feels good to me. So yeah, in Dying Light, if I kept my weapons upgraded, and I was killing normal zombies no matter what, with one hit, that would be really cool.
I agree.
I think the idea is that, again, it's not executed well because of all the reasons we've already talked about. But I think the idea is you're supposed to take advantage of like all the tools you can craft instead. Because the idea of using a firecracker and then grouping everyone together and throwing a Molotov or like a makeshift bomb sounds great, but it's just like, it doesn't feel satisfying because they hardly even react to Molotovs in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Bombs are going to attract every viral anyway. So it's just it seems like melee is the safest option to not attract anything, and it has at least some feedback to it. So it's like, I don't know. It's just like, I think I agree with you, but at the same time, I can see a reason why it's not that. I don't know. I'm kind of split on if I totally agree with you or not, but I can sympathize with you all the same.
So I guess, Dork, did you say your least favorite?
I don't think you said your actual favorite, Dave.
Well, no. Yeah. Okay, let me just think a bit, because you're gonna say my favorite zombie is a cop-out. It was the one that came to mind first. It was the normal zombies, because they're the least frustrating. But actually,
yes,
if you nix the normal zombies, I do actually have an answer, and it is the spitter. Because they're fucking annoying when you're trying to get to them, but when you actually are within range, they die quicker than any other zombie.
Yeah.
So you're saying is your reasoning for this zombie being your favorite is they're easier to they die the quickest.
Yes.
Yes.
They aren't on screen as long as the others.
Yes. Oh, actually, no, if that was the case, I'd pick the exploder, but I just hate how they always like ambush you when you open the door. I don't like that shit.
I feel like you... how about the screamer? They only show up 3 times.
Nope. Because they bring my least favorite, the virals, out, and I just find it really off-putting, that cutscene when you're kind of like smothering it to shut it up.
Yeah, that's a little bit too edgy.
I think it's hilarious because... again, I have a portion about this in the video. You can't murder children, in games. That's just a thing you can't do. But because it's a zombie, it's okay, right? Which is funny. But also, it's almost like they tried to get around that. But it's like, it's like, oh, you see Crane's just trying to, but it's
calm
like,
it down. Yeah,
you can still smack it with your fucking machete. That isn't off the table. So like, why did they even put that in there? I think if anything, they should have had Adams like snap its neck or something.
I think I shot it with a gun when I saw it in the apartment building mission. So it's just like, what the fuck?
You just talked about snapping necks. That's a really interesting thing where both Rahid and Jade, when Crane kills them, he snaps their necks, something you don't do, in the rest of the game. I just thought
Well, actually,
that was an interesting touch.
that is how you stealth kill enemies from behind. The only time I ever did that was on the way to the antenna, which is why I think that's one of the best levels. Because they have enemies placed there that don't know you're there yet, which is never a thing in any other part of the game. So I totally get why you chose that. And sure, if you really want to count it, normal zombies, whatever, right? I get it. We didn't like these batch of characters. Okay, now it's my turn, right? Least favorite zombie. Sure, it could be the Berserker, or I forget, like the Charger thing. That actual arena fight with it is god-awful, terrible shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure, it could be, the Volatile, even though it's my favorite, because they're annoying as shit. See, this doesn't really work, because there's not that many, so I can't just be like, sure, it could be this, it could be that. So I'll just end right now. Actually, wait, hang on. Go back. Sorry, there's one more I could have said. I'll start over. Sure, it could be the Berserker, the Charger, because...
Just
sure, it could be... No,
just
Dave.
Just do your...
I got it.
Okay, fine.
So after I say like the exploder, or sorry, the like the Charger thing, insert this part. Sure, it could be the exploder, right? Because the exploders pop in out of nowhere, seemingly like just placed there by Techland to trick you. It's so goddamn annoying. No, for me, the most annoying zombie is the goon. The goons are just so pathetically lazy, and they're even more so now that I've played Dead Island, because it's the same thing in that game. The same enemy type. It doesn't react at all to anything you do. It just fucking stands there. And the melee swings on him are just broken. Dude, what is this shockwave that happens when you're nowhere near him? You clearly avoided the attack, and then you fall to the ground and go,
I hate it so much.
It's almost like Peter Griffin with his, just get up, you fucking piece of shit, Kyle Crane. Aren't you a good runner? You're like, owie.
The worst was there is a safe house in Old Town where there is a goon on top of like the tower, and you have to climb up and fight him. Basically on like a it's like a tiny little square.
Go on.
It just there's no place to escape from the shockwave, because it will hit you even if you do the dodge, which you guys told me about, because I was getting really mad at them. Because, no matter how far I ran away from them, it always seemed like I'd get clipped. In the end, actually, that's when I used the exploding stars, because it only took a few of them to take the goon out. And then when I finally didn't care anymore and was just using guns, they die very quickly to guns.
Which is nice, but... I shouldn't use the word lazy, because that's what a lot of gamers use when they try to describe something they don't like. They say, the designers were lazy here. But every encounter where like here's a cool chest, or here's a place you have to go to. They just like, hey, let's just put a goon here, sure.
Well, you can so say boring. And you should say boring, and the enemy itself is kind of maybe not ill-conceived, because obviously it makes sense to have like a bigger enemy in a game like this, but like maybe ill-implemented. Like they didn't test it enough, probably.
Like everything.
They didn't test it enough. Drew, there's two Dead Island games before this where it's the same enemy type. Like this is very much, routine for them at this point.
That's my bad.
That is a frightening prospect, that Dying Light is the result of the iteration of 2 Dead Island games.
Yeah, that is certainly a reason why I think this playthrough... It's funny, when I did the Dead Island videos, or I guess like the video of the 2 games last year, I was like, it made me appreciate Dying Light more, because this game's rough. Now, I don't know. Like, again, perhaps this is like the same thing that... Like, this is the exact same thing, but like for like a different game. But now I'm kind of thinking maybe I should give more respect, and because Dying Light 2 does feel different, whereas like fucking Dying Light 1 feels very similar to Dead Island games now.
Can I ask? Because I don't know anything about Techland. Are they owned by someone or do they publish their own games?
You know, I have a little bit of a blurb in my first 10 seconds about in my video, but
No, just go. Well, just tell me for the purposes of me. Yeah.
it was Deep Silver, but then they didn't like how they wanted to turn. So like Techland wanted a more serious game, and Deep Silver's like, make it a little more goofy game. So that's why we kind of got whatever combo it is in Dead Island. So they split, or like half the team split anyway, and went with Warner Bros. And that's who published Dying Light.
Wait. So they were owned by Warner Brothers?
Published, yeah.
Dying Light was? Okay. I don't know. That's interesting.
Am I wrong? Am I not right? Hang on.
Well, just because a big company publishes a game, it doesn't mean they own the company. That could just be the contract.
Yeah, it's Warner Bros.
Yeah, but what I guess what I was trying to fish for in my head is I'm thinking like how much creative control and like what were the deadlines like on all these projects, right? Because if the goon really is copy pasted, then it probably is just the result of not having enough time for initial R&D, perhaps.
Well, Techland has gone on record in like saying that it was much easier to work with Warner Bros. Because they just let like them do whatever.
Oh, damn.
Oh, well, then okay. We're back to Dying Light being completely fucking indefensible. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
So we're now on the side quest portion because I asked earlier, right? Did you guys do any of the quarantine zones?
No.
No, what's that?
It's
my sister in Christ. Listen, right? Like they were one of my favorite parts of the first playthrough. It's just like Dave, how I viewed them on my first playthrough was like a less interesting vault you might come across in like a Fallout game. It's like, oh, well, like what's in here? Oh, cool. Here's a little small like little dungeon, to explore and clear out. So, like there's like some apartments that have like a gas heater thing, like malfunctioning, so you have to crouch to avoid damage from all the smoke. There's like 3 of them that are in like a rail train car area, which aren't great. I won't lie. There's like a supermarket one where the whole floor is electricity, and you have to like avoid that. Yeah, it's just like an area to clear out, and the problem though, again, it totally spoiled for me on my second playthrough. It's such a small thing, right? But it doesn't go away. On your map, if you complete it, it's still there for you to do again. Because this game, if you couldn't tell, is meant to facilitate that idea that it's a never-ending, like, you can keep playing it forever. You can play it, co-op. You can play it after you finish it. You can, like, redo the quarantine zones. You can, like, there's a whole bunch of, like, Radiant quests you can do. There's a skill tree after you get your survivor level all the way up. This game, every lootable thing resets itself after like 5 days. So this game wants you to play forever, and that doesn't help the first playthrough at all, Wow, nothing.
No,
No,
I didn't do it, so.
I remember asking you about the supermarket because every time I went to that gas station or I went to see the guy and his son up in that tower, there'd be someone yelling over the PA system in the supermarket, and I saw the shield on the map, and I'm like, okay, obviously the supermarket is something. And I asked Dork, and I think the way you explained it to me, which doesn't make any sense with how you just explained it now, so I probably misread what you said, but it was like, oh, it's like a mini escort mission, and I'm like, well, that sounds terrible.
You asked about the shield icon close to the supermarket.
Oh, so that's a different thing.
Yeah, all the shield icons are dumb, horrible escort missions that are dumb and horrible. So that's why I'm like, Dave, if you want to, go for it, but I promise you're not missing much.
Okay. So that's not even what you were talking about. Never mind.
No, you must not have even. It's crazy because, like, yeah, they're all over the map, and it was very alluring to me. Like I said, I would go out of my way to be like, oh, here's a new one. This is going to be more content. Excellent. But yeah. So you guys didn't do any of that. How about the side quests for realsies? Drew, I know Dave has some stuff to say. Drew, you said you completed a few, or you attempted a few of them, quit halfway through. In terms of completion, how many side quests did you do?
Let me see.
Did you get the chocolates for Ghazi?
No, I've never heard of that person.
Did you fight the fake antizen dealers?
No. I didn't listen. This is what I was explaining. This is what I was
Those
explaining
are the first
earlier.
two side quests.
That's okay. That's okay. Listen. I got super fucking lost in the tower too, with the fucking stairs being blocked off. So I was just trying to find the fucking office and talk to Raheem and shit. But I think I explained my vicious cycle predicament earlier, where it's like I couldn't find anything, and the resources were very scarce for me to make stuff, because I didn't want to do the melee, so I was trying to make range stuff. I couldn't do it, and so then I would be like, okay, let me try to do a side quest so I can get more experience and I can hopefully find some cool stuff. So then I would go to the side quest. I almost said go to the Starbucks. That doesn't make any sense. Go to the side quest. Then you pull up to the side quest and the person's like, okay, kill all the zombies. And then I can't do it, because this is also why I had a horrible experience with the goons. There was the I think it was this. I really tried to do the side quest where that Dave talked about earlier, where I was like, where the dad was like, I don't know, my son went to the tower and ran off, and so we're gonna lose protection from Rice. So then I went back to the tower and found out he was in some apartment somewhere, and you go there and then he's like stuck in the apartment building, so you have to kill all the zombies. So then I was like, okay, let me throw myself into this combat. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna finish the side quest. And then I couldn't do it because I ran out of throwing stuff, because I couldn't find barely any resources, even when I was exploring so much more in the early game. So it really was just like a vicious cycle of like not being able to do it, like feeling like my effort was futile no matter which direction I pointed myself. I'm not gonna pretend like that's like really that defendable. I know I sound like a fucking dickhead to people who have way more experience with this game, and that's fine. Please leave a comment below and boost our engagement and tell me why I'm the worst Dying Light player yet made. But that was my experience with the game.
Solid. It's a shame, because Dying Light is... We've been talking about this game for a while, right? Dying Light is so dumb, because like some of like the best content in the game is in the side quests. But it's such a gamble, so that I in good faith, couldn't even feel good about recommending anyone do all of it, because so much of it is terrible, or at the very least, the outcome has no consequence, and it's like, oh, that was all for nothing, huh?
Yeah, and then the tough part is, even if you were to be like, okay, Drew, specifically look up how to do these side quests that are really good, who's to say if me specifically, being a huge dumbass, would even be able to enjoy it? But two, that would kind of ruin the fun of this being an open world RPG. Like, I'm supposed to stumble onto stuff myself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Drew, you are right. And speaking of that, so I finished every side quest at least once. Dave, I feel like you probably finished around a quarter to a half of them. So how would you say the selection, the a la carte selection you had went?
You are so right with that. You don't kind of know what you're going to get, because, you know, like for instance, the quest that you give that guy a gun leads all the way to this quest where he dies, but you save his kid, which I guess is a good ending for the kid at least. But, you know, the kid would have been fine if he just stayed home with his wife and kids. So, I don't know. Like I'm trying to wrestle it in my mind, because I tried to only do side quests where like I was actually really like helping the people involved. Like there's that one in the fishing village where like the mom ran off with her 2 kids because the guy was being a dick, and so you got to go find the kid, and then you got to go rescue the mom who's being held captive by this crazy guy. And like that, so with those missions, and I'm leading to my favorite one, which is kind of in the same vein. With those missions, you feel like you're actually helping people. It's a really great feeling. The twins, I did their first mission, but I hated them so much that I never did another mission for them. And a lot of the other missions, well, maybe they had some funny missions later on, but again, it was like that. They were so obnoxious that I didn't want anything to do with them. I did the...
Yeah.
I actually did kind of want to do more of the witch missions. I did the first one where I got her mushrooms for her, and she said, I'll come back to help you. You'll come back to help me when the time is right. But I guess I just ignored maybe everything else. I usually collected a lot of the side quests when I saw the exclamation marks, and then I would look through them to see if A, they were on my way to something else, and B, if it actually sounded like I was helping people or if it was just like pointless busy work. Now, my favorite mission in the entire game was when you're helping the guy in the kindergarten with the wizard hat, the gunsmith. Because you enter that area and he's got, it's like, I guess, a preschool they've all been holed up in, and he's wearing a wizard hat, and he's been telling the kids about, like knights and magic to keep them, their minds off the zombies outside. And one of the little girls is diabetic and they've run out of insulin. And he's like, please, can you go look in the pharmacies? And while the pharmacy stuff was horrible because there's virals everywhere, and one of the pharmacies raises an alarm when you open up the door, and it's just chaos. But eventually you follow. I think, yes, you can't find any insulin in the pharmacies, but you find on one of the computers that her father had picked some up before he died. So you go to their old apartment, and you do find a vial of insulin, and you get it to her, and she's safe now, which actually really made me feel bad because I'm like, that's one vial, man. How long is that going to last that girl? This is really bad. But then, one of the kids talks about how he heard noises in the basement, and you go down there to get his blocks for him. And then it's really sad because the gunsmith confesses that, all the time he's been saying, oh, my wife is going to be back soon. And then he's like, yeah, she turned and I couldn't kill her because I still love her so much. I would take the bite for her if I could. So I kept her locked in the basement. And
yeah, real funny stuff, Dave.
I'm laughing just because it's so kind of tragically absurd. And then, you kill her and you help him out. And finally, he's like, look, you've helped me out. You've helped these kids out. The Troy and her band of merry men have come to take the kids back to the tower. So, the kids are at least safe. And he's like, come visit me at my shop. And then you go there and you get the best gun in the game. So like, it was one of those missions where it had a cool wrapper. Out of all of them, it felt like it felt more tangible, like I was really helping at least the girl out. The wife in the basement was a weird twist. The wizard hat and all the talk about that, oh, Mr. Crane is a knight, so he's going to go out and fight the monsters and you'll be safe. Oh, there was a weird bit where you have to go kill a troll in the courtyard, so you kill a goon. And he's like, hey, I've killed the troll. And the guy's like, oh, that's not the troll. And then one of those berserkers bursts out of a garage. So that was kind of funny. It was just a really cool chain. It was late in the game, so I was trying to lessen the side quests I was doing, but it was really the final group of side quests I did that kind of had a chain to them. And yeah, it was the most enjoyable in the game for me.
Yeah, it's always fun when Dying Light has this weird, it wants to be an RPG, but it's not issue, right? Where like when you're at its best with these side quests, that's like a good chain, you know? I know what you're talking about. I think that's also the one, perhaps it isn't the one where you play like investigator and you go to the basement, right? That isn't the same one?
No, that's the kid who's not talking with the museum curator. It varies. That safe house is very close to the kindergarten. And that was the final side quest I did. I found his dog, and that gave me the key to the armory. And that was a really cool one too, except that one was really fucked up, I thought. Not that the wife in the basement isn't fucked up, but
oh, I'm a cannibal. I ate a dog. It's funny because, like, for me, I'm just like, whatever, dude. Like, okay. Like, this is...
yeah.
But, it's nice when you have some side quests that kind of chain together like that, because then it doesn't just, like, feel like an exchange, a transaction of, like, hey, you know, like, do X for experience. Okay, thanks. It kind of feels like a real situation, you know? Again, you guys couldn't have possibly done all of them because that would be ridiculous of an ask for me. But so like some of the ones that were really cool, you two would have had no idea. But so you know how in the slums, Crane's like, we gotta get rid of that tower. Raheem, you're dead. Yep. And like, you know, that whole part didn't even matter. It didn't affect you in the world anyway, right? There's also 2 side quests for the mechanic or the engineer guy in the tower too, and each of those 2 have the veneer of like, yeah, it's gonna help out, you know, the runners at night. It's gonna help out the tower, and obviously it doesn't. So you know. I don't like those 2 in terms of impact, but out of nowhere, there's one where you can genuinely open up a tunnel in the slums, because like there's a tunnel that's closed off with like a blockade of like military like walls, and you can't go through it. And then there's a quest where you can legitimately like you like take an explosive there, you know, from somebody that he made, and you blow it up, and it's open the rest of the game. Like, you guys can do this, and you just hide it from players? It just seems so weird how, like, that's the thing that's missing, is having an impact on the world in some way. And you don't in this game. And it's like, oh, you just do it when you feel like it, I guess. And everyone's going to miss this who doesn't really love the game, so that's great. Really weird. That's just the grab bag of side quests and Dying Light. Because of course you have something like that, but then you also have an equivalent of, can you get 5 herbs, please? Like, oh, okay, I'll get 5 herbs. That's a great side quest, guys. Good job. Really great job. It's a shame you didn't like the Fatine and Tolga stuff, but I can totally get it. I'm kind of split, because I, you know, like on one hand, I like their writing, but on the other hand, I'm just thinking like, it doesn't sound like it's delivered very well. You know, it just sounds like they're trying to do like a bit, but it's like not endearing enough
it's like a Rick and Morty sketch a lot of the time.
Kinda, yeah.
I loved the flavor of the game in terms of taking place in a fictional Turkish city. I think it's supposed to be somewhere in Turkey, and you know, so the people there, and the music when it plays, mostly during the loading screens. I found both of them fresh, because there's not many games, especially open world games, that take place because aside from like the Assassin's Creed games, and they're more historical anyway, I haven't really played a game set in the Middle East, or you know, I haven't really played a game set in the Middle East.
Dave, haven't you played Spec Ops: The Line?
Oh yeah, I guess that counts.
Got him. Drew, did you have anything to say about the setting? Because I know Dave also wanted to talk about the music and sound design a bit.
Oof. Well, yeah. I really like the setting too, and it was really cool to. It is kind of a mixed bag, because you have all of these people. They are characters, right? Especially the people like that you can just go out and meet. And there's obviously, Dave said there's a funny kindergarten teacher with a wizard hat, you know. So like there's a good diverse amount of people. So it doesn't feel like they're just like tokenizing or dumbing down the culture of the area. But by the same token, you have this whole group of Turkish people that are just put in extreme danger, but they can only be saved by Roger Craig Smith. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is kind of a mixed bag in that regard, but it is, yeah, I agree. It's really cool. And also, in other types of games, they usually end up being the lamest, but the kind of the desert vibe, like I've always been a sucker for like deserty vibes or like Middle Eastern inspired stuff in games. So I was very much like, yeah, this is a vibe I'm very, very down with. Now, unfortunately, you don't, you have to often leave the cool city and go be in the sewers quite often, which doesn't have any distinct personality. But that is kind of besides the point here, that I think.
And I actually, when I told you I wanted to talk about the sound design, I just really wanted to bring up how annoying I found all the zombie noises, and we've already covered that.
Well, let's get into the music a little bit then, because I do have some stuff to say.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Drew, take it away.
Okay, guys, here is the part where I'm going to take it away about the soundtrack. Is there a soundtrack in the game? I mean, yes, of course. Yes, of course. I actually didn't think there was like a dedicated soundtrack at all until, and Dave rightfully called me out on it, because the problem was I wasn't sitting still in one area for long enough. I didn't realize until climbing a radio tower that songs do play. The problem was if I would be sprinting in a straight line from point A to point B, they would start playing a song and you get the annoying little synth sting. It's like, but then it would immediately like fade out because I like crossed like some sort of flag or something. So I genuinely thought the soundscape of the game was just made up of like wave files that just like were meant to ambiently play. And I was wrong, so that's fair. But also, who's gonna, like, what is the iconic Dying Light theme, right? Like there's like nothing here, and it's just kind of like generic, kind of miserable sounding vaporwave stuff in the game, you know? Like, I get we're in a zombie apocalypse, but the only time the soundscape isn't totally miserable is like when Rise's goons show up in the school and it starts playing like a vaporwave beat or something.
It's amazing. It's sick as fuck, Drew. You don't see it, all right? First of all, the iconic Dying Light song is the main menu song. Ba, 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 boom, ba, boom, ba, ba, ba. That's iconic, all right? So you saying it's not just shows me that you like Sonic, you know, and it's just embarrassing.
Dude, and you're completely right, and you actually completely called me out. I just like shitty stuff like Sonic Forces EDM. It's so awesome. Anyway, back to Dying Light. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, look, it really doesn't do it for me because I just love when music has a strong melody, like a majority of the time. Not that ambient stuff is like outright offensive. I think a big part of the issue for me is I guess I just wasn't really in the mood to play a game that was all around kind of like groggy and miserable. And I get it's a zombie apocalypse game and everything, but with all the zombie sound effects that really put me on edge, and then all like the dreary like synth ambience, I just kind of was like, I don't know, this game just kind of puts me in a bad mood. Like it kind of makes my face scrunch up a little bit. I don't know. It just really didn't do it for me with the music, especially. Here's what I would like to say. I said earlier, with the movement, this game really did help me finally, I think, come to grips with and really appreciate a lot of stuff about the first-person perspective. Because, oh, excuse me. Because I think, like I said, growing up, I got very, like, disoriented. Like, I really struggle with, like, the motor skill aspect of it, or just, like, the mental processing of it, right? Because in a lot of third-person games, it's like, okay, I see where my character is, and so I can immediately do spatial awareness. But it is different in first-person. So this game really did help me out. I don't have any first-person games, like first-person shooter or otherwise, like on my list, on my immediate list. But Dying Light did do good for me in that department. But like we said, this game is a mess. So on this game's own terms, that's why I have a lot to say about it. And because the game is a very messy ball of string or popsicle stick bridge or whatever the fuck metaphor we want to use, like, that's why it's so interesting to think about and talk about and like deconstruct, is because like there's cool stuff there. Most of it doesn't end up working out, and I think that's really where it is I do appreciate my time with the game, but also I came out of it with a bigger appreciation for the genre, and I would like to seek out games that do similar things better, I think is really where I'm at.
I will gladly, I really hope that you really, really like my next first-person perspective pick. It won't be next, probably, but I really hope you like Prey when I choose Prey, because I'm definitely choosing Prey.
Heck yeah, yeah.
With all that said...
Well, why don't I just kind of go into my final thoughts on the game, because that's kind of what Drew did just there. I echo a lot of that. I think one of my biggest issues with the game is just how miserable it is. Yeah, I don't know if... I don't think I brought this up on the podcast. I definitely said it in the chat where it was this thing where... No, I think I said it on the podcast. You can definitely edit around this. Where the side quests where you're helping people were so great, yet in almost every story mission, Crane either made a very stupid decision or what he wanted to do ended in failure. So it was really this weird dichotomy where the stuff that made me feel like I was helping people and doing good was totally undone by the main core of the game. And that just kind of bleeds over into everything. It's like, you know, the parkour is good, but the crafting system is interesting, but the hordes of zombies are a threat, but it's just, yeah, a lot of butts. This game is butts. No, I won't go there, but
this game is cheeks.
I mean, if I were to rate it, I would give it, yeah, like a 2-star. I can see why people like it, but so much about it just did not work well for me. And this is speaking as a seasoned FPS player. You know, the movement was my favorite part of the game because the movement was the least difficult for me to get accustomed to. It's just like the open world stuff doesn't work, the story stuff doesn't work. I'm almost interested in seeing what Dying Light 2 is, just to see if they fixed a lot of the problems I have with this first game, but I think I'll let you take that bullet and I'll just watch your video.
Absolutely.
But I will say, you know, Dying Light was on my list of games to try because I remember watching your video and I tried it for a half an hour a couple of years ago and I liked that first half an hour. And just the idea of like an open world parkour zombie game set in a fictional Turkish city just sounds so new and fresh and interesting that, you know, who knew it could be this much of a mess. I think messy is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, that's honestly fair enough. I would say I think we all can agree this messy is a key word in this podcast. Drew, you already said all your thoughts. So we got a 2 out of Dave, a 2 out of 5. Out of 5, Drew, what would you give your Dying Light experience?
I kind of want to give it like a 1.5 or like a 3 out of 10, I think. I kind of agree with Dave. I think I still would be, just out of like my own sick curiosity, I kind of would even go further than just Dying Light 2. I kind of want to play Dead Island and just see how much more messy it can get.
Oof.
Well, I have a long video on that if you're curious. But
No, yeah, I remember that. I'll have to go back and watch it again.
so I would give it at this point a 2.5, and a 2.5 for me means, so 2 is when it's like I like it, but and a 2.5 is just above that where it's like, yeah, I mostly like this game. It isn't great, but yeah, it has enough going for it that I'd say I like it. I'd say when I first played it, it was probably close to like a 3.5 to a 4. I thought it was nearly phenomenal. And I agree with everything I said, but at the same time, I'm not disillusioned. I'm not giving in to what I think the game could be. I'm just now accepting what it is, and what it is a 2.5. So, yeah. Also, before we wrap up completely, you guys haven't played the following. So let me explain, because you know how the story ends very abruptly, right?
Well, let me say I'm very curious. Let me say first, I'm very curious for your summary because of what you mentioned earlier, that there's like 4 different listings for Dying Light. I did end up accidentally buying the enhanced edition, which I obviously didn't need to do. So I'm very curious to hear what the fuck the following even is.
So the following... So there's a few DLCs in the game. There's a ton of DLCs in the game. Again, Techland just keeps adding on to it, either for free or as a content thing. So there's Hell Raid. I already talked about that. There's the Prison Raid or the Prison DLC, which is kind of like a speed run mode where you try to go through a prison as fast as possible, and then you get like better loot if you do or if you do it fast enough, or at the very least you have more time to collect all the loot at the end if you do it fast enough. It's interesting, and it's pretty cool for hardcore players. Not really for me. There's the Bozak Horde, which is a terrible name for it, but basically it's like you get 12 trials in a row, and you have to speedily like get to a place, speedily chase down a bolter, speedily kill zombies. It's weird. I think at the end you get like a cool you get some kind of, I think it's like electric arrows or something. Like you unlock how to craft electric arrows.
Oh.
So again, they add to the game a lot, but it's just like, if the base game isn't great, couldn't you try to fix that? Nah, keep adding shit to it. Great. So there's that, but there's also the following, and the following is basically what you might expect from an actual DLC expansion. It's Kyle Crane after the events of the game, and it's a whole new map, all new side quests, all new characters, more content, more story, right? So it's the actual continuation. We still don't see Brecken. He's still fucked off. No one's seen him since he talked to Crane when he's like, "Rise's men are after you. Also, I'm gonna vanish forever." So we still know where Brecken is, but like Lena, I always say her name wrong. Lena is like, "Oh, this man, he came from like the countryside. He says there's a cure there or something," and he's like, "Don't go." No, the following, and like you just get like it's really dumb. It's very dramatic, I'll say that. So you head to this countryside, and it's also quarantined, I guess. I don't fucking know. And so the main gimmick of this DLC is it's a gigantic flat countryside, and you get a vehicle. So the parkour basically gets put down. It puts. I wouldn't even say on the back burner. It's just like, you can do that in a few, slightly populated towns, but that's about it. There's really no use for it anymore because you have a buggy. You have a very immersive, you're behind the wheel and you drive around all over. Gigantic map, whole bunch of dumb quests, a few cool ones, which I point out in the video. And like the story goes, there's a cult around here. They have the answer to the zombies. Like, long story short, it was an old cult that went out of style, but like when the zombies came around, it's like, these guys have the answers of how to deal with the zombies. It's some kind of like vile thing that when you're in like the midst of it, you are kind of half zombie, so the zombies don't even like smell you or something, whatever. Once you get to the very end, there's like this half human, half volatile, so like a sentient volatile essentially, and she's like, "Here, you must become like me," or whatever. And then Crane starts to turn into a volatile, and then you kill her, and as he's trying to get back, like with the medicine, because everyone at the tower is still waiting for him, he turns into a volatile, and then he escapes the city. He's in like a normal area, and the kids are screaming because he's a volatile. That's the whole DLC. There are multiple endings to this DLC, surprisingly. I just didn't ever see them because I'm not playing the fucking game again. I'm not playing the DLC again.
Yeah.
But there's an ending where everything explodes because you chose the wrong, or you didn't like get to the place in time. And there's one where you choose the opposite choice and it's like, oh, I'll take this back. I don't know. So it's just a very strange expansion because it doesn't really double down on what Dying Light is at all. So it's just a very strange bit of content that I think you guys would find interesting, but I don't think you'd enjoy if the only part you liked was the parkour in the first place.
Yeah.
And I mean, you said you didn't say there was a Cyber Rice. So if he doesn't come back, what's the point?
Yeah.
Oh, Rise? Oh, no, he doesn't come back. Thank fuck. You really want to see that idiot again?
Well, no, Dork. I just said that to get a rise out of you.
Oh my fucking god. Were you planning this?
You want to see Rice come out of him?
I didn't think this through.
Anyway, so that's the DLC.
Sounds
we didn't
terrible.
do it. It would have added 20 hours easily to all your times.
Oh my Christ.
And that's if you probably just because again, the map for that thing is so fucking big because they're like, you gotta drive around, right? That even just traveling from point A to B, it would just, you guys would lose your fucking minds. I know it. But yeah, we did the base game of Dying Light. That's now in the books. Are we all happy that it's done?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Hopefully we get a good episode out of it. Like and comment. Let us know if this is shit. And so before we go, though, we have to tell you what's next on the schedule. While it is going to be Dave's pick, most likely it'll be the end of year episode will be next, where we're going to talk about our favorite games of 2024. So expect that probably end of December, early January-ish time frame. And that'll be probably pretty close to what it was last year. So look forward to that. And afterwards, Dave's pick will be...
It will be Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. If you recall, when we did our Metal Gear Solid episode, Dork said that his initial pick was Metal Gear Solid 2, but because I objected and I said, well, no, because Drew can't play Metal Gear Solid 2 without having played Metal Gear Solid. And we got what I think is one of our best episodes out of it, so no regrets there. I really wanted Dork and Drew to play not only Metal Gear Solid 2, but 3 and 4, and maybe we can go to 5 and some of the others, but because it's a favorite series of mine. And then Dork pointed out that, well, we're kind of playing, even though I want to play Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, we're playing this because you want us to, Dave. So it kind of sucks if I have to waste a pick on the Metal Gear Solid games. And I said, that is fair, Dork. So after my next pick, which was Monkey Island, I go, I'll do Metal Gear Solid 2, and then I'll intersperse that in between all my other picks so we can slowly go through the series that way. I'm really looking forward to this. I've kind of been hyping it up in chat for like a year now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
When I first played through the series, this was shortly after 4 came out. I played 1 to 4 for the first time over like a span of 2 years. And Metal Gear Solid 2 was my least favorite of the 4. And then in the early 2010s, when I replayed all of them, I think it's now my favorite game. So it's very interesting why that change happened, and we can discuss it on the podcast. But I'm really looking forward to see both Dork and Drew's reaction. I mean, their reactions to what happens in Metal Gear Solid was timeless. So I'm like, Metal Gear Solid 2 kind of does raise things up a notch. So I'm very much looking forward to that episode.
check out this rat I found.
Check out this rat that I just found.
Iconic Drew line.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining this long. I'm sure it's a bit long episode. But yeah. So we'll see you next time. End of year. It's going to be cool. I hope you like our picks. I think our list is going to be interesting because we don't play a lot of mainstream stuff, but there also isn't that much mainstream stuff that we played even still. So I think I think at least for like me and Dave, it's going to be very unique picks. This is a long way to end this podcast.
Yeah, anyway, bye.
Yeah, it was good. It's good seeing you again. Please subscribe if you haven't. There's no way you got this far if you haven't subscribed, but that was Post-Game Clarity, where after the game...
Our light is dying.
What? Dave, what the hell? That's so depressing.